they say all men are created equal. Shot! Master! I pull out the Glock! Full of suffering, succotash, son!
One of your nuts is hanging out of your shorts.
Real glass!
You have a father, but your father's dead.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Too Sweet with Lucy and Estelle. It's Monday, so you know what that means. It's Forbidden Door review time. So yeah, Forbidden Door was yesterday or last night if you're in the UK like we are. And Estelle, I know you stayed up to watch it. Did you think it was worth it?
I think so, yeah. It was a long one, but
Yeah.
I definitely enjoyed. I think staying up late, like I definitely suffered a bit from the fatigue. I don't know whether you felt that because you've just come off from watching it now. I don't think you watched 0 Hour, did you? But you watched
No,
just
I
the
didn't.
show, and it was a lot of wrestling.
It was so much wrestling. So I watched a little bit this morning and then the rest of it after work, and it's like, yeah, I didn't stay up to watch it, but still like that fatigue of just kind of like, okay, another wrestling match, and trying not to like have a nap because normally I'm a sleepy girl. I'd have a nap after work.
Yeah.
So, but top to bottom, it was some good wrestling on that show.
It was, yeah, and they did 1 million on the gate, so
Wow, really?
yeah, just from like I say, like just on the gate of the
Wow.
arena. I think it was a 10K arena. This sold pretty much that. I don't think it was a total sellout, but pretty much that. Yeah, so definitely successful. I'm not sure what the buy rates were for it, but interesting to
That's
say the least,
crazy.
TV ratings and then the live attendance.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That is crazy. That's really good to hear.
So I guess I'll just quickly run through 0 Hour if that's cool. Just catch
Yeah.
everyone up with that, and then we'll go into the main show together. Also super happy to be back united. Like I said, I did do
Yes.
last week's episode alone, and it's nice to be back together and like be able to bounce things off each other and have that safety net.
100%. Thank you so much for going solo last week. You did a great job.
No.
And it's definitely not easy. It's definitely better when it's the two of us. But yeah, I
No.
appreciate that.
Yeah, you're on edge when you're alone.
You're
It's
like
a different
overthinking it,
experience.
aren't you? Because you're not just having a conversation, you're literally just talking to yourself. So you can't get any
Yeah.
feedback on like what you're saying, if it makes any sense or not. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So 0 Hour, well, I usually turn on like the hour before, but for some reason I turned it on at about 12 a.m. UK time, and there was already a match midway through. I don't know whether it was like it started at 11:45 or what. But there was a 4-man tag. I don't really have much to comment on that because it literally was added last minute. I think there was like some House of Black members in there.
Yeah.
Roddy was in there, was he? Kyle O'Reilly.
Did I read that Gabe Kidd was in it?
Yeah.
Very weird that
Yeah.
he suddenly just appeared out of nowhere.
Well, they were kind of doing some Gabe Kidd things. He was on the
He was
in the
on Dynamite.
sidelines.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Roddy. But anyway, it was just like a mishmash last minute match added. It definitely did not need to be added with the amount of wrestling that we had on this card. It was a 15 match deep card. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't really have much to say on that one. So moving on to the women's tag match, we had Momo Watanabe with Chris Statlander versus Tam Nakano and Willow Nightingale. This was a pretty fun match, but I did think like it's a choice to have Willow and Stat in this like tag match, and I get it because it's like a Forbidden Door, and so you want to showcase some Joshi talent, some Stardom talent, but I feel like where they're at with the feud, they should have pulled the trigger on them having a singles match, because they announced it for Beach Break next Wednesday, well this Wednesday, that they are going to be having a singles match together. So I was just like, what was the point? Because this feud is really great, it's hot, it's a big moment for both women's characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that, again, it's not, it's an in brand feud, so maybe you didn't want to showcase that at Forbidden Door, but still.
Is it they're doing a Owen Hart Foundation tournament match, right? So maybe the potential is there for that to sort of stem into something else. Um, Maybe they have that match. Maybe it's a bit of a fucky finish, and then they go on and have a bigger match. Hopefully at All In.
Yeah.
I mean, that's quite a long way away. Well, actually, it's not. It's next month, which has dawned on me, and I was like, "Whoa, it's next month." So if we can like drag it out that long, I'd love to see that match at Wembley.
Yeah, but I guess like we're kind of getting it next week with the Owen Hart tournament, but I see what you mean. They definitely can stretch it out a bit further, but again, I don't know.
You just
You
wanted
know,
to see the pull the trigger on it straight away.
I think so. I think like we've been kind of meandering about with it for a while now, and
Yeah,
also with those types of cliche frenemy storylines, which they kind of have been teetering on, when they get dragged out, it can just sort of bog down both the characters. And
yeah,
I'd like to see like Stat and Willow do other things, especially since Willow's
true.
like just come off the back of like a Mercedes um feud. There's no reason as to why she can't go back for the TBS title in the
Mm,
future.
yeah,
Um, I know they don't do like rematch clauses in AEW, like WWE, but it's something I would have liked to have seen. But it was a great match, and they really translated their aggression for each other, and so did Watanabe and Nakano. I'm not super familiar with them, but their feud translated very well. That you didn't need to
nice.
watch the product to have known. Um, and in the end, Watanabe pinned Nakano with the German suplex, which was nice that Willow or Stat didn't get the pin on each other
Yeah, yeah.
because you want
That
to
front
save
door
that.
open.
Yeah, you want to save that for the TV match next week. So, and I'm sure that that had massive repercussions for their feud, that being with Watanabe and Nakano's feud in Japan. I'm sure that that'll have some repercussion for them. So, yeah, pretty nice, kept things moving. But I'm ready to see him just, and I know I am next week, but,
Yeah,
and I
I
know it's for the
know.
Owen Hart tournament, but
Yeah, I know what you mean.
just being a little bit nitpicky, but I'll just swear I'm out of it. Then we did get an Owen Hart tournament match next. This was Mariah May versus Saraya. Shida was shown watching throughout the match, so that was a nice little touch. I actually forgot Shida was there, which is quite bad. Do you know what I mean? Like within the
Blended
company,
in.
like we haven't seen her for so long,
Yeah,
it feels like, and yeah, but it was great to see her. Tony was at the sidelines as well for Mariah, and she took out Harley Cameron, who also accompanied Saraya. Saraya tried to take advantage of this moment, and then Mariah made a little rope break. So that was a nice little moment, but it didn't really go anywhere. Mariah May pinned Saraya with somewhat of a bridged roll up, and Mina Shirakawa came out at the end to celebrate with Tony Storm. So, like I said, there was only really like one big point of note, which was that near fall, which was nicely done by Mariah. And at the end, with Mina coming out and them all being together as a trio, it kind of made it clear that the events on Wednesday were forgiven, which is like, I'm not nitpicking at that. Like, I'm totally fine because it was a misunderstanding. And so I'm totally cool with if off screen in kayfabe, uh, they went to the back and Mina Shirakawa was able to apologize to Mariah May and they made up. And Mariah May is still confused because I wasn't sure going into Forbidden Door from Dynamite what was going to happen, but that was cleared up in the pre-show. So again, like I'm totally fine with that. And yeah, like I say, Mariah May is going to advance. So and
nice.
good for her.
Yeah, I'm
I
really
think it was
happy.
the right woman won there.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that. I think I would have probably been really annoyed if she hadn't picked up the win.
Yeah, I would have been a bit, it would have been a bit crazy. Uh, Next up, we got the trio match with LIJ versus Lucha Bros and Mystico. This match was great. Like,
I've heard
I
that it's
think
very good.
it was amazing. And I think, there's not often times that I'd advise people if there's a pre-show 0 hour match to go back and watch it, but I definitely would advise people if they haven't seen that match to go back because they were cooking like
Hmm.
several points. My mouth was like ajar, like, oh, like this is just so good. Um, and someone who really stood out to me was Titan of LIJ. I've never really, I'm not like as familiar with them. And again, a luchador, with not much character other than, they're really good in the ring.
Hmm.
But I was totally won over. I'm not gonna lie. Phoenix and Teton started the match, and like I said, my mouth was just ajar at the sequence. Then we got some really nice pair ups because next we had Penta and Yota Tsuji, who were like the powerhouses of Lucha, and then we got Mystico Takashi, which was great. They have some history there, and that tension really shone through. So I really enjoyed like those little. It wasn't just it. It was chaotic, but it wasn't as like it had some structure in it in the
Hmm.
matchups.
Yeah.
So it was just really yeah, like I say, it was really good. Yeah, at one point, Takashi powerbombed off the apron uh to Mystico. That was a really gnarly spot. You don't often see those like high risk spots in like 0 hours. So I was very much impressed with that.
Yeah, for sure. They've got that one chance to make an impact, so they've clearly tried to make the most of it. So yeah, good on them for that. I'm definitely gonna have to go back and watch that match because I've heard a lot of people saying how good it was.
Yeah, and then Titan also, like when he got back in the ring, he delivered one of these like most devastating super kicks that I've ever seen. Like it was just like, yeah, you'd have to see that. There was a lot of great spots, so I don't know whether that one was a screenshot and like screen grabbed and gifted around. I know later on that the Takeshita Blue Thunder Bomb, that one definitely seems to be spot of the night because that's done its rounds. But that super kick was also great. The crowd gave a little "This is awesome" chant, and Mystico pinned Titan with an armbar because, of course, Mystico was going to get the pin because fucking Tony Khan loves him. But I was like, Titan was the standout of the match, so it was a bit devastating to see him get the pin. But also, like, it didn't really like impact him too much, I guess, because I'm walking away from it talking and gushing about him so much.
Yeah,
Uh, I'd really like to see him again.
yeah, yeah.
I'd like to see a random luchador again.
Wow,
So,
wow.
wow, I know.
Unbelievable stuff. It must have been mind blowing for you to say that.
Yeah. And then that pretty much concluded it. As soon as that match was over, there was like a 2 minutes, then we went straight into the main show. So yeah, let's go into that together.
Yeah, I think that's interesting that you said that there was like a 2 minute thing and then straight into the main show because I feel like that pacing was all night. It was just like, right, that match is over. We're moving on to the next one. It's like, God, give me a chance to catch my breath, like
I think
regroup
that
after that.
had a bit of a detrimental impact though, because there were certain moments I think could have done with breathing more.
Yeah, agreed. Because sometimes you would like
Like a big moment
some,
had happened, and then
yeah,
it's like here's the video package for the next moment. And it's like, well, I think we could just do like a couple of extra minutes to just really feel this.
exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought as well. It did feel very rushed, but then again, you've got a million matches on the card, so that's kind of what you're going to get, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And like I said, the LIJ match was great. Definitely heated up the crowd. And then, like I said, went straight into some more lucha with Hechizera versus MJF. What was your reaction to this being the first match? Because I was a bit taken aback. I was like, oh, well, we're doing this first. Like, okay.
Yeah,
Not that
I
it's like a
didn't.
big match, but I was like,
Yeah,
Max being first on the card just felt
I
a little
didn't
bit weird.
expect it. Yeah, I didn't expect it, but I didn't hate it. I felt like, having MJF as the hometown hero, to sort of set the tone for the night worked quite well. And I guess what we're going with is that whether you agree with this or not, he has to sort of work his way back up the card from before. So like starting at the bottom, I don't know, maybe it's sort of poetic in a way. He's gone from the top to the very start. So yeah, it was an interesting choice having that to begin with. So yeah, and I think as well that was kind of reflected in the match as well with the storytelling of like MJF has like underestimated Hechicero quite a bit. So I mean, he looked really great in this match, Hechicero. Like, even if I know we said we didn't really, not really that familiar with him, but he was great in this match. And you
So
really,
you really like this match?
well, I did. I just not. It wasn't the best match on the card, and it wasn't like didn't blow my mind. It felt a bit short. It felt like the ending came kind of suddenly. I didn't dislike it. What did
Yeah,
you think?
it didn't really work for me. So obviously Hechicero comes out and they introduced him as the alchemist and the scientist of wrestling. These monikers, I thought these are great monikers and really gave me a feel for what this guy's going to wrestle like. I would have liked to have heard those monikers before. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, Max's entrance was great. He did this little crowd surf or crowd flow, I believe Nigel dubbed it as. Um, and yeah, like for me, the pacing was a little bit off. Like it felt like they never really got into. It was clear what the story was and what they wanted to do and what, but I don't know. Like the wrestling just didn't pace perfectly to what I can't explain. It just didn't really work for me. Um,
That's fair. It didn't really pick up until right near the very end, I think, and that's when it suddenly ended. That's maybe why it felt to me like quite a sudden end.
yeah. Another thing is just quick on the topic of Lucha. I've actually been educating myself. So Hechicero is a rudo, which I actually didn't know this. I wondered if you knew this, but in Lucha there isn't just heel and face. There's heel, and then there's a rudo, and then there's face and a teniko. Uh, and the rudo is it's kind of like a heel, but it's like got an added element of like it's like a powerhouse. Um, it's got like a powerhouse like wrestling element to it as well. So then like from that I also got like a further because essentially I was watching the entries like, oh, the alchemist, the scientist, and I was like, oh, it's quite interesting. I'll just quickly search this guy up. Probably should have done that before, but I was like, okay, like I'll look him up now, and then that all came up, and I was like, huh, like that makes sense. And then his like wrestling style throughout the match like showed that. I'm not gonna say like, oh, like AEW should like spoon feed this type of stuff, but I don't know, it would have just helped, I think. Like I think
Yeah,
it kind of
if
says it all if I'm like having to go off and like Google search things and then like build it up in my brain.
yeah,
Yeah,
I've heard that term before, that Rudo term, but I didn't know that's what it meant. So that is interesting. I don't know where I've heard it. Obviously, somewhere in wrestling, but yeah,
Lucha Underground.
yeah, most likely. Yeah, though that is interesting to know, and that is like that's I don't think it's like 100% necessary for the product, but maybe it's something commentary could have sprinkled in just to give you that bit of insight. Just like, here's an extra thing you
Yeah,
should know about this guy if you're not familiar.
it's nothing massive. It
Bit of
was just like
context.
a little something
Mm.
because there was like literally remotely no build on it.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
I
as
didn't
well, sorry to interrupt you.
no,
Excalibur
keep
said
going.
something like, I think it was this match, I'm sure it was. He said, this match is going to have huge international ramifications or something along those lines. But then he didn't explain what they were or why.
Yeah.
And he just sort of like, "Oh, I don't really believe you if you're just going to say it like that and then not expand on it." So I definitely do understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, so like just to go into pacing a bit more as well, like I was saying, Hechicero, I thought just started off looking really weak. And I know that there's always going to be like wrestling 101, like someone goes over at the start, like you always shine up one person and then, then the next person gets a comeback. Like that's
Yeah.
a basic form of it. Um,
Yeah.
But I don't know, like he just came off as like a bit of a chump. Like we had the MJF show, but and he did like he's a Ric Flair moonwalk. He's like I know Cena has his 5 moons of doom. Like Max has got his 5 taunts of doom.
Mhm.
So he hit that, and that was nice. And obviously the crowd reception, uh, loved that. But then I don't know, like if the story we're telling is Max is underestimating this guy, and this guy's like a powerhouse, and he's a technician, he's a master, he's a scientist of his craft. Why is like he just able to just go in and just like burn through him like it was a squash match to start with? Like I don't know, like that just was a bit off for me.
Yeah, I guess maybe Max was trying to feed off all the, that momentum that he got from the crowd and stuff with that instead of maybe selling a bit more and taking a bit more at the start.
Yeah, I get also it's like, oh, he's not supposed to be taking him seriously, but I don't know, it just it just fell a little bit flat for me. And then, Hedgesau did start to get a little bit of a comeback. We had that reverse monkey flip. That was nice offense. We had a, the first of many Fujiwara armbars of the night.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. And then MJF won with the Brainbuster. It was pretty abrupt, like I say. So it was like the start was Max kind of just flying through him. Then we kind of see a bit of Hechisero's offense, but then Max just proceeds to suplex the shit out of him, and then he just goes down. And
Mm,
it was just, I don't know, because there was no like storytelling before, it felt like the match needed longer to really tell a detailed story in the ring. And they could have told like all these stories and maybe that's like not their fault, maybe it was a time constraint,
mm,
but you could just tell this is a guy who's literally just got off the plane, walked into the arena, and they've had barely any time to like set up what they're gonna do.
mm.
I don't, and then yeah, this is like the outcome, and I'm just like, what was the point? Because that was not a dream match. That was not amazing. Like, yeah, it was a fine match, but it was like some you'd see on Dynamite with like a random
Yeah.
luchador. Like it wasn't. It didn't need to have a place on this match, and I get it. Like Max needed a match, but I think there would have been a better use for him, and I don't think it did Hechicero any favors. And that's just my opinion. Like
Yeah,
I'm
well,
not
I
trying to be
think,
negative or down.
yeah, I get where you're coming from. I think Hechicero did come off, he came out of it stronger than he was before. Like, you were hearing all this stuff
Really?
about him. I think he had some good parts in the match, I think. And it was kind of like, yeah, MJF was underestimated him. He was targeting, was it MJF's knee or something? But yeah,
But
like
it
you
didn't
say,
feel like a big David Goliath. Like
no,
it
it
didn't.
didn't.
It didn't feel like a big like Orange Cassidy versus Zack Sabre Jr. Even though Zack Sabre Jr. won, it felt like a real battle for Orange Cassidy,
Yeah.
and it even felt like a real battle for Zack Sabre Jr. Like if you
Mhm.
want to do the whole underestimating, overestimating thing, like Zack really in that finishing, uh, which was fantastic when he sort of pretzeled him up in that submission. It was like he had to pull out all the stops. He had to make it so that he couldn't even have like an arm out to reach the
Yeah.
rope. And I just think like a brain buster. It, I don't know. Maybe I would have liked to have seen several brain busters to have got this big guy down.
Yeah, or like maybe he hit the brain buster and he kicked out and he's like, what?
Because
How did
Max
he kick
doesn't
out
look
of
that much
that?
better either. He doesn't
Mm.
look like, oh, Max went through a war and he defeated Hechicero and it was a bloody battle and it was like, oh, but he made it out. It hasn't, it's not damaged him, but it hasn't really added much either.
Yeah, the impact is minimal of it, and that's not really what you want for a pay-per-view match, is that it needs to mean something, and it didn't really feel like it did.
Yeah, so I mean, there's that baseline of enjoyment because it's a Max match and Hechicero, and they're both great in-ring workers. And you could watch any match on this card, and even that four-man tag match that I didn't get a chance to watch, I'm sure it was still great in-ring wrestling. But like, I don't know, like you're always gonna have that base level of enjoyment. So whenever I say like, oh, I don't enjoy a match, it's not that, oh my God, that match was terrible or awful.
Yeah.
It's just something was missing.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. I thought the same. To be honest, like I know I've maybe been a little bit more positive than you, but I agree with you. Um, that there
It was
was
after the
some.
LIJ match as well, guys. We've got to put it into
Oh yeah,
context. I'd just come off that.
you were like up here, and this match was just a bit down there, but that makes sense. Maybe yeah, maybe my expectations weren't as high because I hadn't seen that match. But it did feel like there was something missing, and like we've said, I felt like the ending was really abrupt. Just something not right, like you said about the finish with MJF with the brainbuster. Like, yes, it's a devastating move, but there's something off about that.
I mean, at least it's over with. We can wash our hands a bit and we can move on,
Yeah.
hopefully. Uh so yeah, that was that. Moving on next to the Acclaimed, with Tanahashi in their corner versus the Elite. Um just want to go over the entrances quickly as well, because these are some great entrances. We had the over the top, sycophantic, elite biased video package,
Yeah.
which kind of had like the boys vibes. Um, and they also dubbed Okada as the best bout machine, so a little I don't know, a little snub to Kenny there. I just fucking love the EVP entrance. Where I think it was Justin Roberts said wearing their spray tans, Reeboks, and pearl necklaces. Like I know since day one we've said the presentation is so good, but that entrance, it's good. It's so good. Um, I just want to say as well, I loved Okada's ring gear, his little
Yes.
his little mirror ball moment, and Tanahashi as well, who looked like he was off to a rave.
Yeah. Stunning. Stunning.
Stunning. Yes, like I said, we had a scissor ace. And as he was coming out, it cut to Okada's unimpressed face, so that was brilliant. Okada's expressions are so good. And Tanahashi rocking out to Caster's rap was just everything. Like it was just,
Yeah.
it was hilarious. Like he just didn't know what to do with himself, but he was just dancing along. Like
He was vibing.
he looked so good. I think this match kind of protected him, like being in a trios match, because obviously last year he was looking a bit broken down. Um, he looked better than Naito, which is a bit sad. Um, yeah, I mean, obviously he's still got some issues. He's got issues in his knees, like Naito definitely did later on as well. The toll of their wrestling style, yeah, taking its toll in their bodies. That's wrestling, that's the sport, that's what it does. Still grateful to see these legends. I'm not like, oh my God, lock them away. Like, I never want to see him again. But yeah, yeah. Caster then did a really long rap, which in some ways was good. Like, it felt more impactful, like, because that short form few line rap has kind of gotten a bit stale. But then, like, he just rhymed bitch with bitch like 6 times, which
Yeah.
is great, but also terrible at the same time. While Tanahashi is just like dad air guitaring in the background. It was really something.
Yeah, it was like, well, you've run out of ideas, so you're just saying bitch over and over again. Cool.
Yeah. Like just waiting for the music to cut. Um yeah, Daddy Ass wasn't at ringside at the start, but he was at the on the match, like the graphic for the match card. So I thought obviously came out at the end, but I was like, okay. Um yeah, Tanner and Okada were in the match to start with, but Okada instantly tags in Nicholas, instantly like not giving the people what they want, typical
Of
heel,
course.
denying us. But that kept that moment later on. I thought Bowens was great during this. He's always great. He's definitely like the standout in the Acclaimed, and like many people, I'm excited for whatever mid card solo run we get with him. Uh, as well, we got another great Okada little heel moment when Nicholas has been setting up for the Sesame Timbers. Okada's about to go in to make the save, but he literally dips out when he sees Tanahashi.
Yes. Yeah, it was like,
So
fuck that. See ya.
yeah, and I feel like with Okada, one thing that you don't give him credit for is enough is he really does just seem to have a grasp of being able to thread like one thing throughout the whole match.
Yeah, like
I've
the
noticed.
consistency and yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoy like his ring psychology and the way he sort of breaks it down, and is it, yeah, like you say, like consistency. Um, yeah, then we had another great moment of Nicholas wearing Caster's headphones to block out the heckling. Of course, we had CM Punk chants, guys, several CM Punk chants um throughout the night. And then finally, in like the next leg of the match, we got our Okada and Tanahashi showdown. Did a great little sparring bit. Like I said, Tanner was looking good.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I agree. He was.
yeah, it was great to see him. And Okada uh, pinned Tanahashi with the Rainmaker to take the win. And I thought it was solid. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it was solid. There was nothing really wrong with it. I think maybe it was felt a bit random. I don't know, like the storytelling wasn't all there with the way it was put together, but I was surprised
In
that
what way?
well, I don't know, do you remember how it started? Like the Acclaimed were just backstage and they were just
I
talking
agree
to
with you. I just want you to go into. I just
yeah,
want
they were
to
talking
hear
to
you say it.
the Elite, weren't they, backstage and oh the Elite cut their rap, so then they went and talked to them backstage and they were like
They kept cutting the rap like over and over again.
yeah,
Yeah.
they were like, "Grr, we're angry at you," but then they didn't actually like really do anything about it. So I wasn't like all that excited for this match, although it was really cool that Tanahashi got involved. I was surprised that he took the pin, especially pretty clean.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
I thought he'd do that for Okada. He'd do that for Okada.
yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
I don't.
I'm
Yeah, he has
glad
a
it
lot of
was
respect for him.
Okada picking up the pin rather than one of the books. That was less surprising to me. But yeah, just with him like being president and everything, I was just like, whoa.
Yeah, I think it was definitely like a clear moment of we're passing, even though like the whole of Okada's run, like pretty much has been the passing of the torch to Okada.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I thought it was nice. And I think like it's just not that serious like in America, I feel like, which is like good and bad. Because
Hmm.
last year, like Tanahashi sort of dialed his match in. Naito definitely did later. Okada's been known to sort of give himself a lesser version of himself when he was doing his singles run during Forbidden Door. Uh, the Japanese stars definitely tend to give less of themselves in America, which I'm not totally like. I understand like you'd want to save the hottest version of that match for your own country, for your own promotion. Of course you would. Like I don't discredit that. Um, but like I said, I think this worked better with Tanahashi in the trios match, protected him more, and like yeah, he is more likely to take the pin. He is more likely to take the L. Because it's not like the president losing in his promotion in Japan.
Hmm.
It's just Forbidden Door. It's just a bit of fun, which like for better or for worse is what it's turned into,
Yeah,
I
that's
think.
very true. And it was funny. I can't remember if it was Matt or Nick, but they literally said at the end when Daddy Ass came out to stop like the attack on
Yeah, when he was
Tanahashi.
going up the ramp. Yeah.
Yeah, one either Matthew or Nicholas went, "It's just Forbidden Door. Calm down."
Yeah.
Like, well,
Yeah,
yeah,
that was great.
you've just summed it up perfectly.
Um, yeah, like post match, Okada went on to further assault Tanahashi. It wasn't enough that he'd pinned him. As you said, Billy Gunn ran out, made the save. Matthew mouthed off about, like I say, it's just a bit of fun, which was just great. Like,
So
how
self-aware.
manipulative do you have to be? Yeah, self-aware. Like, we're just trying to beat this like guy up. Like, it's just a bit of fun, lads. Um, and then. Yeah, one thing that I did find a bit weird was the ending because it felt like, right, um, Billy Gunn and the Acclaimed were trying to have this feel-good moment of let's lift up Tanahashi, and Tanahashi's going to raise his arm and he's going to be like, yes, like, he's overcome the odds, everyone's starting innovation. But Tanahashi was selling so hard. Like,
Yes.
Tanahashi did not want to give him that moment. So it was really fucking awkward because Tana was kind of taking it like, oh, beat up Okada's fucked me up because he's trying to
Yes.
put over Okada hard because he's just taken the pin and he
Yes.
doesn't want to look, yeah, he wants to commit to that. And then the Acclaimed Daddy Ass are trying to like get this feel good moment. It just felt really awkward to me. I don't know if you got that as well.
Yeah, I did, and I thought that Tanahashi it just made him look like really weak because he was just being carried out. And it's just like, well, yeah, I get it. You've just like taken a Rainmaker, obviously. So that like contrast between, like you said, them trying to make it a feel good
But
moment
if
and
they'd
him
been like
just
really
being fucking
concerned,
dead.
yeah, and supported that, it just made it like more, like say, like stand out more and made him look more weak, which
Yeah, because
is fine. It's not,
he was
yeah.
literally being carried out like he looked like he couldn't walk, sort of thing.
The next up was my personal match of the night, even though Swerve versus Osprey was great. Shingo Takagi versus Bryan Danielson. This was an Owen Hart tournament match, and this was a bit of me. Like Love Island, this was a bit of me, love.
This,
Um,
yeah, this match was 100% my type on paper, I have to say. It was an incredible match, and I'm I'm kind of torn between because I know the main event was an amazing match,
yeah.
and I loved it, but I am torn between these two as my match of the night as well because I feel like this one was more to my personal taste. Um, maybe the main event was more sort of edgy, dramatic sort of thing, but this was just, a showcase of clinical wrestling, brutal wrestling. It felt really real to me.
Oh God, yeah. When Danielson was planted on the apron, and
Yes.
he just his head just sort of. I mean, obviously it was done safely, um, and Dr. Samson was out there, and it's very obvious. We've seen this spot time and time again. Still makes your heart just drop down to your stomach whenever you see a Danielson neck angle. Um, but yeah, like you say, it felt very real.
Yeah, like I was so concerned for Brian. I think that's the whole, he knows that everyone is in all of his matches, so he definitely plays on that.
Oh
But
yeah, he has a
genuinely,
laugh.
yeah, he does. It's a lol to him. It's just a big laugh to him. But like, I was genuinely sat there thinking, oh my God, Shingo's gonna be the one to end his career. He's gonna end it right here, right now. And like looking back, I'm like, that's ridiculous. But
As soon
that's
as
how,
the count started, you're like, they're not going to count him out if this man's like fucking paralyzed.
yeah, right, right. But
But yeah, you do
it
have that
sucked
moment of
you
like
in.
suspended belief. Oh, when it
Yeah.
happened, just from a visual, not even the selling, but the visual playback of the way his head hit the mat
Mm.
was just, ooh,
And that wasn't the only spot as well. There was loads. I mean, yeah, I can't remember others off the top of my head, but there was loads of instances like that where I was just like, oh my God, this is it, sort of thing. It really did like properly suck you in.
yeah, it got a great amount of time.
Yeah.
Um, And yeah, like you say, just loads of hard hitting moments, the strike for strike bit, Danielson selling those stiff chops. Like they were the worst chops this man's ever taken. Now, I don't have no doubts that taking a chop from Shingo would cave my chest in. Um,
Yeah.
but do you know what I mean? Like
Mm.
Mans was selling whole life. And I really liked how they sort of had this bit where Shingo had the upper hand with his upper body strength, but Danielson had his advantage with his lower body strength, and sort of how that kind of played into it. The matching superplexes were great as well off either corner. And I wrote down, this feels like a war. Like it felt like a battle,
Yeah.
which I think all guys, this is only a quarter final match as well, but all tournaments should sort of, I've been really impressed with the tournament wrestling. People have really been understanding the assignment of get it done as fast as possible. But this was an instance of what do you do when you can't put your opponent fast because your opponent is fucking tough to beat.
Yeah, 100%. It's like a war of attrition sort of thing. It's who can outlast the other one. But
Yeah.
like you said, you try to end it quick, but you can't. So you've got to pull everything out. You've got to be as aggressive and as violent as possible. Um, yeah, 100% agree. And by the way,
Yeah.
Nigel McGuinness was so good on commentary.
Oh, he was so good all night.
He was, yeah.
Tony Schiavone unfortunately wasn't able to be there. He lost his voice mid Dynamite. I think, yeah, he had to get covered for on a collision. And then, yeah, that meant that we had the trio booth of Nigel, Excalibur, and Taz. And it was just a riot all night. We always talk about commentary boo. Taz was really out of pocket, I felt like as well. Like everyone was
Yeah,
just kind of out of pocket.
yeah, it
Uh,
was.
but it was great. And yeah, of course, Nigel, it's a Danielson match. Like you've got to have him there. It's an essential.
Yeah, I thought that maybe after this match, like Nigel might get swapped out because normally he wouldn't do the whole pay-per-view. I didn't realize that Tony wasn't very well. So, but I was really glad he was there for the whole night. He was a big standout, and
Yeah, definitely elevated those moments.
yeah, and he like it's not that this match needed anything else adding to it. It's being amazing, but it just elevated it even further having him there, like taking his snipes at Danielson. So it's so funny.
Yeah, he is. I also liked as well how, the both of them are stiff wrestlers, but I think another thing that gave credit to this match being as great as it was that you had the stiffness of Shingo paired with the selling of Danielson.
Yeah.
Um, that's really what again, and it was like you were saying like Shingo might be the one to end his career. I was like, what if Shingo does advance? Like,
Yes,
surely
exactly.
not. But like
Exactly.
it really felt like it.
Yeah, it
And
did. It
to have
really
it
did.
be that convincing when the outcome is quite obvious, um, is really something. Made in Japan as well is an awesome fucking move. I just want to put that out there. Like you don't see that you don't see that a lot. And another one of my favorite moments was when Danielson was kind of back down in the corner after like the beat down and he's selling hard, and then the yes movement, the yes chant starts, and it kind of wills him back, and it was like giving like kind of the grassroots of the yes movement of like this underdog. And like, yeah, Danielson is on a bit of a losing streak, but I think what people need to understand is that's when he's at his best, is like you need to break the character of Danielson down to build him up to get these high moments. And then he runs in with the psycho knee, and then quickly Shingo like gives some offense. It was a really fast-paced match. It wasn't like, oh, and then he had this like victorious moment, but I just loved this little snippet. I was like, God, that like raw emotion of the crowd, like just willing him on and him just going fucking full at, like, I just loved it. It was like
Yeah,
so good.
that's a really good point. I think it proves that, like, even though Danielson is who he is now, like, like you said, that's the grassroots. That's where it kind of his success sort of, really got going in WWE. Like, he can still get that reaction from a crowd even now. Um,
Yeah.
that really speaks to, I think, his in-ring psychology, where he can dig deep into that underdog sort of thing, like you say, and the amazing selling.
Yeah. And the ending was, in my opinion, abruptness done right. Abruptness for a tournament, I think you can get away with. You could even have gotten away with the MJF Hechicero ending had that been uh, a quarterfinal or quarterfinal match. I don't think for a semi or the finals you would, because people want to see more of like a war. But essentially, Shingo's kind of going in sort of like what appeared to be a triangle hold, going for some kind of submission or some kind of lifting him up for some kind of suplex. And Danielson quickly reverses it into a nasty Fujiwara armbar. It was deep, and it was so deep, in fact, that he had to give a verbal tap, which I
Hmm.
thought was very, very nice. Uh, yeah, which means that we're getting a Pac versus Danielson on Wednesday at Beach Break.
Oh,
He's going
let
to
them
advance
cook.
to let them cook to the next bracket. But like they said on commentary, Shingo and Pac had history as well, so it was also like, oh, that's believable as well. Um,
Yes,
but
that's
yeah,
so true. They were talking about that on commentary. So it was never once sort of like this unfathomable sort of outcome. It was it did feel sort of 50-50. Not in a it was 50-50 booking like that sort of shit sort of way, but it felt like an even match.
yeah, def. Um, it sort of felt like like a real fight,
Yeah.
like UFC, like just he just got the upper hand, he just got that submission maneuver locked in, and he had to. It was either that or get his arm broken,
Yeah.
you know. Um, yeah, it was fantastic. I just like I said, I loved it. It felt like a real war, a real battle between two men who just would not give up and like I said, pulled everything out of their arsenal. And in the end, it was just a split moment
Hmm.
uh, that just like I said, just allowed him to just get the win. And oh, I thought it was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Yeah, my personal match of the night for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. What a match. What a match. It's a classic.
Yeah. Next up, we got Tony Storm versus Mina Shirakawa, who I just want you to guess the age of Mina, as I found out last night.
Oh, I don't know.
Just want to.
She must be quite young. Is she like 21 or something?
She's 36.
Oh, oh, okay.
I was absolutely shocked last night as well.
Yeah,
This is like
she,
Lance Archer again. I just felt like I had to share this. Like, no
yeah,
way is that woman 36. Like, that's
that's
insane. And
crazy to me. I mean, evidently, I thought she was fucking 21. I was like, oh, she's gonna be younger than us. That's why it's gonna be surprising.
yeah. Um, Yeah, we got a great little video package as we did for pretty much all these matches, I think,
Yeah.
which was nice. Uh, I thought these three have done the best build out of anyone, especially with regards to people who were doing a Forbidden Door style match. I don't think you can count like Swerve Osprey because that's
Hmm.
homegrown talent. But I'm talking
Yeah.
like people who were working with people in other promotions, and they did have an advantage in that Mina was able to work every week on television.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought they had the best build and they've completely won me around. At the start, I was like, I don't know about this angle. It's a bit hokey for the women's champion to be doing that. But then obviously, I've come to understand that that is Toni Storm. Like she is a bit hokey and she's a bit circus.
Hmm.
And I think what's kind of won me around is just the sheer commitment to it.
Yeah.
They don't care how stupid they look. They're just so committed to it, and I think that's what's made this angle and like made the match so compelling, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is the commitment to the bit, isn't it? It's Tony, like she's never out of character. And
Mm.
then Mariah as well. She's again got the commitment to the bit. So and then to have her in the middle of them two was really compelling because you're like, well, which side she gonna take? Is she gonna get involved in the match? And I quite enjoyed the fact that she didn't. That's kind of not the formula you maybe expect when there's someone on the outside. Normally they're there for a reason. Not that she wasn't there for a reason, because she definitely added to this, but she didn't get involved in the match. I love the attention to detail that she was sort of dressed like Miss Elizabeth. I think it was
Oh
WrestleMania
yeah,
5.
it was definitely big Hulk Hogan, Macho Man vibe. I was
Yeah,
thinking like
love
who's Hogan, who's Macho Man. I
that.
think
Yeah.
I think even though technically Tony would be Macho Man because like originally with Miss Elizabeth, I think she's got more Hulk Hogan vibes. I think Mina's got more of like the crazy, jacked up Macho Man
Going off vibes alone.
aesthetic. Yeah,
Yeah.
vibes. Yeah, no, it is the modern WrestleMania 5, Macho Man Hogan, Miss Elizabeth
Just
storyline as you say. But this time it ends in like a big freeway. So
yeah, it's a bit fruity, and that's, it's updated for modern times.
the 2024 version. Hey, I mean, it was June, it was Pride Month, right? Um yeah, T Tony came out again, great entrance. I know everyone was committed to great
Yeah.
entrances. The Statue of Liberty entrance for Long Island I thought was pretty nice. Um and I literally wrote down give these women their flowers and then Mariah May came out and gave them both flowers. I was like, oh my God, that's fantastic. And like you say, she stood in the middle. She didn't take a corner, but you still had that moment of tension of like, where's she gonna stand? Commentary put it over well. Like it was never about the title because, as I said before, like that Mina's not gonna win the world
Mm.
title, but they really did well with the stake of Mariah May. And I think had Mariah May not forgiven her for last week and she was just in Tony Storm's corner, it wouldn't. Then you've kind of lost your one sort of wager in the match. So I think it was a good job that they decided not to have him like be petty
Yes,
in
so
that
agree.
moment.
So agree, because that's where women's feuds tend to go, isn't it? It's just petty, and it's just, oh, you used to be my friend, and then you did this, and like the tension slowly build until one of them eventually turns on the other. Like it's refreshing just to see something a bit different.
Yeah. And as well, like Tony matches, like they don't usually work on pay-per-view for me.
Mm,
Like you'll enjoy the character and the promos and stuff, but the actual matches themselves are a bit. But I think because Mina's such a crazy character as well, like their wrestling styles meshed really well together, and so the match
mm,
was pretty good.
yeah,
Um, I like that the figure four when they're both like bitch slapping each other. Like they
yes.
managed to like make the offense vicious. And Mina throughout the whole thing was so aggressive and so vicious, that it sort of forced Tony at points to not just be like hokey and like doing one up on it, on the other, like taunting the other woman. She didn't really have a chance to do that. So I just thought these two worked together really well. But like I said, they still had the sort of unorthodox, quirky moments in the match as well. And, I also want to just take this moment. I've managed to go this far without talking about it. But the crowd, we really need to address the crowd. I don't know whether you heard it, but there was a guy next to the mic who was chanting, "You can't wrestle." Not sure
Really?
towards who. Yeah, not
I
sure who
did
was
not pick up on that.
towards who or what. But yeah, it was pretty obvious. And I just want to talk about the crowd in general. This crowd was terrible. It was one of the worst pay-per-view crowds AEW has ever had. Especially, like I said, this is a crowd that's done a million on gate. And I mean, I don't understand how you can buy a ticket for this show and not be a really enthusiastic fan because you
Mm,
have to be like a bit, you can't really be a casual fan and buy a ticket for the show, in my opinion, because
yeah.
it's a bit marky in it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's very like IWC fucking dream match type vibe. So I don't the crowd to me was very weird. The fact that the crowd was more dead for a Shingo and Danielson match than Jericho, which got much louder pops throughout it was bizarre to me, this crowd. Like they popped for the big moments and I have to give them that, but they never really got involved. They never got involved in the near counts. They never like other than I think towards the end of Osprey Swerve when I think they were on the feet, it was just weird vibes for me, and it definitely diminished my enjoyment of the pay-per-view, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree with you. They weren't.
For a pay-per-view crowd.
Yes, exactly. You make a really good point when you say like why you wouldn't buy a ticket for this surely if unless you're a really big mark because that's the
Yeah.
you're not you casual fans you're not really going to be that interested in this probably. Um I think it was just a bit toxic at times as well. So you had the you can't wrestle and again in the women's match later on with Mercedes you had someone well she was trying to get like the crowd we'll talk about this during the match but the crowd really turned on her during that but they were chanting like football or basketball chants. I don't know what bloody sport they were on about
Yeah.
but they weren't really interested in the match. They were
I think,
on about
yeah,
their own thing.
let's leave that because I have a lot of opinion on that. So let's address that in the actual match. Because
Yeah,
the actual wrestling, I don't have a lot to comment on, but that I do. So, but yeah, I totally,
I'll save
totally
that.
agree with you there. Like the crowd, um, entertaining themselves, shall we
Yeah,
say, which is very bizarre because it's like it's not a TV match. It's you're at a pay-per-view, you're watching like a title match.
yeah,
You
it's disrespectful to an extent, isn't it?
you but I just don't understand it. Like I don't understand any of it. Like the crowd to me was just really weird. Like I say, like why are you popping more for Jericho than anything else? why are you? I don't. It's like they just didn't have like etiquette. Like they didn't understand. Like it's
Mm.
like it was the first wrestling show, and they and New York fans are usually really marky and usually really it's like it's one of the biggest wrestling markets there is. Like Chicago, Philadelphia. Um, like I say, those types of places you get your big crowd. So I don't understand what was going on there.
Yeah, I know. It's a shame as well because undoubtedly the wrestlers are going to pick up on that too. Um, yeah, I don't
There
know
was
what the
points where it
reason.
was crickets, like
Mm.
silence. Um, like the Orange Cassidy Zack Sabre Jr. match, which we'll talk about when it was just like it was just dead. And obviously you can be like, oh well, it's a long pay-per-view and crowds get fatigued, which I do understand, but it's like they got fatigued during the wrong moments, if that
Mm.
makes sense. Like they'd
Yeah,
hype
there's
themselves
like
up for weird moments, and then like when it was a big moment, they made the moment feel less big because they weren't popping for it.
yeah, yeah, and very very sort. I think that sort of came across even more in the women's matches, which is a shame.
Yeah, and AEW crowds are usually amazing, so it's
Yeah.
like we're really used to like really intense, passionate fans going crazy for on pay-per-view anything and everything. But like if there is going to be lulls, it shouldn't have been during certain points. And yet, like I said, the You Can't Wrestle chant was just absolutely ridiculous. Um, Tony won with a Storm Zero, uh,
Such a cool move,
and
by the way. I
is
really
a
love
great
that
move.
because sometimes with a pile driver like that, you know, it's obvious that you have to get them in position to do it right, sort of thing, and it sort of seems like the opponent is in a way holding themselves up, but that is so like she can just pull it out of nowhere, and she really like
Mm.
folds the opponent up, and they just look like they're ragdolling. It's very cool.
Yeah, it's a very clean uh finisher, and yeah, like I said, just like the ragdolled and they're just completely laid out afterwards. It's great. Um, looks very final. Uh, so yeah, she's won. She tries to pick Mina up. Mina kind of sort of shoves her off. Then there's sort of a tense moment. Tony extends the hand for a handshake, and Mina goes in for the hug. And then eventually they all hug. And then eventually they all kiss. And it's like, you know what? Like, it's just like at that point, you've been so brought into the storyline. You're like, do you know what? Yeah. And I thought it was a really nice. I didn't expect. I don't know why, but I just didn't expect it to finish like that. Like I thought she's definitely going to choose a side, and it's obviously going to be Tony's side. And then I
Yeah.
thought there's going to be tension, and I thought it's going to lead way to maybe Tony versus Mariah in the future.
Mm.
But I kind of liked how it was just like, oh, okay, like we fought out, like, yeah, we're all friends now. And I think it would be different if me and Shirakawa was with the company. I think I would have wanted
Yeah,
more from that ending. But because it was like she's gonna leave anyway, which is a real shame. Like I think she's
it
great, and
is
I think she's really got on her character really works in a Western audience, and she's really gotten herself over. Um, she's got more character than Anna Jay.
for sure.
She
Undoubtedly.
like she's great. So yeah, I thought it was a great ending to a great match, and well done to all three of them.
Me too. I think that like because um Mina's not going to be there going forward, it makes sense that if she'd made a big impact in this story and made them break up or something, then you'd want her to still be there to see to sort of see it through and whatever. But so it makes more sense for it to end in a nice way.
Yeah,
And I love how it sort of changed the formula for wrestling a bit. You know, instead of ending with like betrayals and hatred and punches and stuff, it just ends with love and kisses. It's nice. It's
AW
just
kind of always has though. It's like friendship always prevails.
yeah.
Um, and Nigel's standing ovation while crying was also fantastic during
So,
this moment.
what a dramatic man.
Yeah.
A man after my own
Um,
heart.
and Excalibur, how did they know what we did during our pre-show meeting? It was just great. nonsense, but
Oh.
fantastic. And then that went on to Orange Cassidy versus Zack Sabre Jr. So yeah, Orange came out, black shirt, darker denim, Where Is My Mind? He's in his emo era.
Mm.
And yeah, this match, you're a big Zack Sabre Jr. match. Do you feel like obviously you like Orange Cassidy as well? Was it satisfying? Was it to your liking?
I love this match. Yeah, I thought this was a great match. Um, it was. I think Zach. It's like it was really technical at parts. Um, but I think I've seen him do more technical stuff in other matches. Like if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Not to say against this match, but it wasn't the most sort of technical that he can be.
It was never going to be like Danielson, Sabre
Exactly.
Jr. Like it was never going to be that. But, I think people forget that Orange Cassidy is a very technical wrestler
Yeah.
himself, not to the same extent, of course, but his offense is very technical a lot of the times when he has to dig deep into his
Yeah.
arsenal. Um, so we got to see like a bit more of that. And at
Hmm.
times, because we saw like more technical, because he had to be technical, because he had to be like alert, because Zack Sabre Jr. was just on him as soon as that bell rang, just fucking on him. Like he didn't have any, he had his little moments, of course, but like he didn't really have the opportunity to. So I think it's a bit jarring, not jarring, but a little bit weird, seeing him like that. But when you really think about it, it's like, oh yeah, he kind of always has had
Mm.
that sort of wrestling style to him.
Yeah, you could see that side of him definitely in this match. And I think in all of Cassidy's matches, he's got that side to him. But it was nice that this match gave him more of a chance to showcase that. Um, I liked how I loved on the podcast last week when you how you described Zach and you said I think you said something like he's technical but make it cunty. And I was like, that's
Yeah.
so accurate. And I was just thinking about that when I was watching this match. I was like, he's trying to get under his skin, but it's sort of not really working. But then there's also times when you think it might be working. Um, yeah, I love the dynamic that these two had.
Yeah, it was a bit of a slower pace to start with, and it took a while for the crowd to get into it, which is a
Mhm.
shame. When you parallel that to Danielson, um, Zack Sabre Jr., there's no reason why it shouldn't have had that same reception right from the start because I
Yeah,
don't know, I
that's
just
true.
think if you were genuinely a fan of AEW, you genuinely be a big fan of Orange Cassidy because he's kind of like a mascot. And I just I don't really see. I see people who are outside of AEW fans not liking Orange Cassidy, but I don't meet a lot of AEW fans that don't like Orange Cassidy.
Yeah.
So, and for a lot of people, there's a lot of hype for this match, myself included. So I can't imagine like not being there and not like being I hyped up from the get go. And like, yeah, the women's match was good, but it wasn't like high tense enough for you to be absolutely fatigued.
Mm.
Like, like I said, it was literal crickets. Um, which I guess for like the Japanese performers, it might not be so bad because they're kind of used to that slow applause style from the crowd.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I just felt like it took a while for people to get into this, but then I don't know what people were expecting because Zack Sabre Jr. matches are always like this, and
Yeah.
um, like the IWGP match was not good, but it's always done like that. Like Japanese wrestling, and I know Zack Sabre Jr. does catch wrestling, he does British wrestling, really, but he's really honed his craft in Japan and so kind of wrestles that style of it's slow and then it amps up and it amps up and it amps up, and then you got that last like crescendo towards the end of high intensity. So I just don't know. I'm not saying from the get go the crowd should be absolutely like screaming, but
Mm.
it was silent at the start during this match, and I just thought like y'all don't deserve this.
No, they really didn't. They really didn't. I think maybe it's because they're not familiar with Zach, and like you said, maybe they weren't into it because there wasn't a story. Maybe they, like you said, like most of his matches are like that. Maybe they're just not familiar with it and just weren't into it. Yeah, it's a real shame. But there was still some, as it picked up, it did pick up, like the pace,
Yeah.
as it went on.
I think it was around about the part where Orange Cassidy begins doing the dragon screws
Mm.
on the legs of Zack Sabre Jr., which looked great, I think, because of the height difference as well.
Yes.
Um, they looked really brutal. Uh, at this point, there was, I remember, like a slow sort of chant. Um, yeah, and then the final 2 minute stretch was just fantastic. Like I say, it was, as I said before, you get that slow starting bit, you get the mid bit, and then you get that end. That end is just Zack Sabre Jr. did end up winning with the sort of pretzel style submission, and it again was a verbal win, which I
Mm.
quite enjoy. You don't really see, we saw two verbal wins on the show, but you don't usually see a lot of verbal wins, and I just really like that. Like, yeah, I think that's cool. Every so often to be done. Um, really fast paced towards the end, but yeah, it just didn't. It was a bit of like I still really enjoyed the show, and I don't the match. I don't want to say it's like a letdown, but it just wasn't. I don't know, like the crowd, like I say, just diminished it for me, I think.
Yeah, if they were maybe like more into it, it does affect like the gravitas of a match, doesn't it? Like the crowd reaction. Um,
I think it's because they're popping for big moves, but with
yes.
Zach's style of wrestling and Orange styles of wrestling, a lot of the time, it's like the bigger moves are the technical, it's the wrist locks, it's the getting out of the moves, it's the reversals, it's the whoa and the clapping, and it's like it's not as obvious.
Yeah.
So maybe like you say, like that's why, but I know you're saying they wouldn't be familiar, but I don't understand how you could buy a ticket to this show and not
Yeah.
be familiar. Like it's
Yeah, I know.
Forbidden Door. Like if it was like Zack Sabre Jr. just wrestling on a Revolution, say, or a Double or Nothing, I'd be like,
Yeah.
do you know what? Yeah, that makes sense. But Forbidden Door, I just don't get it. I
Yeah,
just
I
really
know.
don't get it.
Me neither. I mean, I don't know, maybe the marketing was fucking spot on for this and they just reached all those casual fans for some reason in the local
I
area who
love
were like, oh,
The Scott Steiner cosplayer in like the third row.
oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe that was just the demographic was just Scott Steiner fans and they were just looking for some beefed up, roided guys doing
Big
some
Papa
power
Pump.
slams.
Yeah,
And
maybe.
that's what they didn't
Um,
get, perhaps. But I'd rather see Zack Sabre Jr. breaking someone's fingers personally. I I don't understand how he does that. I've seen him do that spot where he, like snaps
and that
someone's
was
fingers
great, and
many
it played in
times.
throughout the whole thing. Like, Cassidy couldn't get the full hold on things because his
Yes,
fingers were fucked. And yeah, like you say, it's like, how do you do that without
I don't.
hurting the other guy to
I
some
really
extent?
don't
Like,
get
you
it
must.
because you can hear the snap as well. I really don't get it. But like it's like a magician. It's like I don't want to actually know because I like that sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Like the disbelief sort of thing. It's just like
Yeah.
I don't want to know. Just trick me. Just let me believe it.
Yeah, it's like when you know the leg slap thing and
And
the
then
Undertaker's
suddenly
daughter.
wrestling is ruined
She wasn't
forever.
happy about that. 11
Yeah.
years old and found out about the leg slap. So the match after this was the one that the crowd was absolutely just suddenly the crowd was awake.
Red hot.
Um, for Shibata Joe Hook versus Jericho Big Bill and the third member that he found after being rejected by Suzuki was Jeff Cobb. Um, as Shibata, Joe, and Hook were walking down, I got anime vibes. It made me chuckle. Like the absolute, I think Comms made note of it, the mishmash of this team. Just the one
Yes.
thing they've got in common is they just want to beat up Jericho, which is fantastic. I thought there were some good elements in this match for sure. Bill was awesome. I'm a big Bill stan.
I know
I,
you
I
are.
didn't even mean that like I'm a big Bill stan. Get him in S
Nice.
tier on our next tier ranking. He's great. I love
Is he gone up to
I
elite
really,
status?
yeah, we'll make it a new column for him, the Big Bill fucking column. Nah, he was great during it. Uh, Jeff Cobb, Smojo, Big Beef. Uh, love to see it. No meat chant, but I think it warranted one.
When Joe and Cobb like collided in the ring, there was like a meat sort of thing when they try to do a shoulder tackle on each other, I think, unless I just misheard the crowd. So I think there was elements of meat.
Elements of meat. But yeah, it was for me. I wasn't that so into it as the
Mm,
crowd,
I wasn't.
and this was kind of like my toilet break match a little bit.
Yeah.
So, um, but yeah, it was fine. It did the job. Um, Hook got the win. Used the Judas effect on Jericho to get the pin.
Nice.
It was nice that Hook got the pin. Um, but obviously he still needs to win his title back. So it's not like, oh well, like maybe he's wrapped it up. Hopefully, like no, he needs to get
Mm.
his title back. So yeah, I mean, it just like it's tough because I'm enjoying the Learning Tree stable. It's kind of like what I had with Tony Storm though, of like Tony Storm, I enjoyed her talking segments, but then it's taken a while for her to really like get a footing in the wrestling.
Mm.
And with Jericho, it's even though the character's changed, the wrestling is still of the same caliber, which is fine, but if it's of the same caliber and it's in a six man, should it really have taken up time
Mm.
in the main card, or should it have been a 0 hour um match?
Yeah, that's the impression I got. I was sat there thinking, could we not have had this on Dynamite or something? I didn't understand why it was sat where it was on the card. If it had to be on the card, yeah, put it on 0 hour. Not that I want the Hook and Smojo to be on 0 hour, but a Jericho match. Like you said, the wrestling's not different, and I was pretty bored. I was pretty bored.
Yeah, I mean, at least with like the Lionheart character, when he briefly did that for like a month before he went to
Mm.
the Learning Tree because he was like still getting booed. He was like doing the lion salt and he was trying to like wrestle like he was younger, which wasn't sustainable. But at least it was a different,
He tried.
it was a different style. Maybe you could be like more condescending in the ring. Maybe you could be more like 5 moves of doom.
Mm.
Maybe like CM Punk was doing before he left, got fired. He was doing the leg drops, he was doing the Hulk Hogan air call. Like, why isn't he doing some stuff like that in his actual
Some,
matches
some cheesy
to
stuff.
like, yeah, to like bring the character to the wrestling? I think that wouldn't, it still wouldn't justify it being here on the card, but it would make it less. It would just make it a bit more dynamic to watch. But
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
happy not Joe, that Hook got the pin.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, let's go for the title, let's wrap it up. And yeah.
Yeah, because I've seen some people saying, "Oh, thank God, hopefully Jericho will, take the hint and go off for a bit now, take a break." But forgetting that he's champ,
Yeah,
he
he's
needs
still
to
got
do
the
something with
belt.
that belt before he goes anywhere.
Taz was great in this match though, he was people
Oh my
screaming
God, it was so funny. And then Nigel was
like a
like,
soccer dad.
"Why are you not being objective?" And Taz was like, "Nigel, be for real right now." And
Be
then
fucking for real.
at the end, when Hook got the victory and the camera like zoomed in on Taz smiling and
I've never
laughing.
seen that man smile so much
I know.
in
I
all
love
his
loved
life.
to see him smile. It was like a ray of sunshine.
It was. And how angry he gets when Nigel calls it for the world. He's like,
Yeah.
it's not what it stands for. It's great.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, I love it and a subjective Taz.
has Taz ever been subjective?
Taz being a dad, I'm here for it.
Yeah. Um, yeah, sorry, I just don't really have much to say though. Like I just
Yeah, it was pretty unremarkable match.
um yeah. I'm not saying like abolish the whole learn tricky gimmick. I'm not saying I understand he's still going to be here for a little bit longer. We are going to see him at Wembley,
Yay.
but yeah, he's doing like that gig as well. I think like the night before with Swerve, they're doing like a joint little
Oh,
concert together. I don't
in
know if you've heard of
London.
that. Yeah,
Oh, are we
like
going?
Swerve's gonna rap. Swerve's gonna rap, and then Fozzy are gonna do like a little fucking
I'm
concert.
pretty sure that fucking Zack Sabre Jr. is like wrestling that night. Meanwhile, we've got Swerve rapping and Jericho singing.
Um, yeah, he's doing what he does in wrestling, where he attaches people to people in wrestling, but now he's doing it with the music career,
Well,
hitching himself to Swerves. But yeah, it's just what can you say though? Like some people belong there in that, some people belong there in that part of the card. Some people don't, i.e., Smojo,
mm,
Hook, primarily,
yeah.
and yeah. And I mean, how Forbidden Dory is it? Because if we can't have Stat versus Willow, which you could have done the qualifier tournament, their Owen Hart bracket for Forbidden Door, and then you could have just like had the Jericho thing on the pre-show. Because if the whole thing is like he wants to keep some element of Forbidden Door, well, I know Jeff Cobb's New Japan, I believe. He's not signed with AEW, is he?
No, I don't think so.
I believe he sometimes does like a few stints in ROH, so that's why I'm just a bit like, hmm. But yeah, I mean, if the whole thing is like that minor of a note of Jeff Cobb, which, he's great and all, I enjoyed watching him. He can move very well for a big guy, and so can Joe, so they were a fun matchup. But if that's the whole thing, then why can't we just have Willow start?
Yeah. Like, what's the reason not to? With that logic, yeah.
Or is it just because we had like a Suzuki cameo for 2 minutes that it's like, oh,
Yeah, I
it's
guess.
got some more Forbidden Door seasoning on it? I don't know. Anyway, moving on before I lose the will to live, we're going on to something that was from zero excitement to 100 excitement. We
Mhm.
got the ladder match, and the unannounced what's the word, competitor ended up being El Fantasma. That's what I'd heard from the rumors. He's great. He's very enjoyable to watch and entertaining. So yeah, good for him. Getting that spot. Jack Perry's presentation looked great. He finally got promoted to the EVP lift with his. I love his like fucking Baphomet mask as well. He looked great.
The goat.
The goat, the devil.
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't
It's
the goat like the devil, like in the Bible or something? Or is
yeah,
that,
like it's like the
yeah,
Baphomet goat devil. Like that's the whole
right?
symbolism of it.
Yeah, I
Um,
was like, I swear I haven't made that
Stealing
up.
MJF's gimmick. MJF's now the wolf, though, isn't he? They're all just fucking
Yeah.
furries.
Yeah. Get them personas out.
Um, yeah. Perry comes in and he instantly tries to outrun everyone. Everyone's got heat with him, and I loved how he ran to the ring to get away from everyone and just got laid out by Takeshita. Takeshita looked a million, and you know what? One thing I will give this crowd credit for, okay? This crowd fucking sucked, but they were behind my boy Takeshita
Yes, they
100.
were.
So you know what? Like, Long
Fair,
Island, like maybe I can fuck with you a little bit for that.
yeah, fair dues for them for that. I that was interesting to me as well, especially because of the reaction for the rest of the night. And I doubt that like anyone in that match or anyone sort of, backstage like probably properly anticipated Takeshita being so popular and that sort of reaction.
It almost felt like he was going to win because the reaction was so big for him. It made it
Yeah.
feel like believable, like, oh shit, like if he won, right, like the pop for Perry was like there was boos and stuff, but it was a bit predictable. I am still happy that he won, of course, but had Takeshita won, the pop would have been raucous. Like
Yeah, it would.
people, and hopefully Tony Khan was listening to that and hopefully
Mm.
acknowledges that Takeshita's just awesome, man. Like you just look at him in that match, and his physique, he looks like an absolute fucking beast, right?
Yeah.
Like he looks like he's in there with children. And then the
Yeah.
way he wrestles and the way he moves, and he's just so cool. And it's like, please, like, do something with this man.
Yeah, he deserves it so much. He deserves so much better booking in AEW.
But hopefully, that crowd reaction got back and we get something planned for Takeshita. Definitely for All In, he better be on that card in some significant way.
Yes. But yeah, yeah. I'm not getting my hopes up for it. But I hope so too. Like, yeah. That's what we all want.
That is what we want, for sure. Yeah, so it was great. They kind of had two style ladders there. They had these ECW fucking aluminium little petite ladders, which were obviously for the spots, and then they had the black heavy ones. I'm not sure what the choice for that was. Like maybe they're safer, they're more gimmicked. I don't know. I mean, obviously, if it is safer, I'm happy. Like, yeah, please use those, but
Mm.
it just looked a little bit goofy.
Yeah. It
Could they not
kind of,
have painted them black?
if you think about it, it is goofy that you would throw someone through a fucking ladder and a ladder would snap in half. Like, that don't happen in real life.
Well, these guys are pretty big, so um, you know, I thought that Leo Rush was looking smooth. It's been a long time since we've seen him. Like, I literally
Yeah.
thought that he wasn't even with. I remember we did the tier ranking. You were like, I'm pretty sure. I don't even know if he's with the company. And I was like, yeah, you don't really see him about. But he looked really smooth during this match. So, uh, yeah, looking good. We also had Briscoe wearing the ladder and helicoptering it round his neck. It was just everything that you'd want from a ladder match. And while like the people in it were a bit random, they stepped up and they gave it their all, which is all you can ask really. And you got the wacky spots. And yeah, the ending was a bit predictable, but it still had some moments of genuine surprise, like the whole Takeshita crowd reaction and that moment
Hmm.
when he was climbing the ladder. It still had some great moments of believability,
Yeah, it did like
even
that.
if it wasn't on purpose by the company.
Yeah, that last bit of Takeshita maybe winning and then Matt Briscoe coming in with the steel chair and then it was ultimately Perry who stole it from Mark. Of all people, like that's gonna put the most heat on Jack Perry. And the way like he stepped on top of him to get up to the top of the ladder,
Oh
like a
yeah,
little detail like that just shows,
I loved that.
yeah, like what a piece of
Total
shit he
disregard.
is. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I really liked it. And I think that like there's space on every wrestling show for a match like this where it's chaos. It's there's spots, there's really dangerous bumps being taken and it's that high risk. I love these types of matches. I think everyone had a chance to shine in this.
I wasn't a fan of Dante's selling.
Oh, okay.
I
Why?
found it quite annoying, like, because the first point was he kind of came off the ladder and his leg sort of moved from underneath him, and he had that horrible injury uh year
Yeah,
back, a couple of years back, which it is
it was just
when you
over a
watch
year
it's
ago.
very gruesome. So obviously he's
Yeah.
trying to kind of have like a Danielson moment of making it look we're all aware of that famous injury and it's like, oh God, but the way he sold it was he was like actually screaming like like a footballer had been tackled. And then he did it again later on. And at first it was like, oh shit, like maybe he got injured, but also like your screaming's a bit annoying. Like I get overstimulated, you're overstimulating me with your
Yeah.
screaming. And then he like did it again. And I was like, so then it was a choice, it wasn't like if he'd genuinely been hurt and was screaming like that, I wouldn't be like, oh, it's annoying. But the fact that that was his style selling,
It's too much.
it just it was too much. Like, yeah, and I know I sound like Dante's biggest hater. Like, I'm sorry, but this genuinely did. I just found it really whiny, and I found it really grating, and it was just too much. It's just not my preferred style of selling. But yeah, he still looked great in the match. Still had his moments. Like I said,
Yeah.
everyone had their their moments. Um,
I
It's just like
thought,
Danielson, like the way he sells it when he's
mm,
on the floor, but he's not screaming out in pain. Like if he does, I just can't explain it. It's also just like yeah, just like a noise thing. Like certain noises just like go right through me.
yeah, I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? Stuff like that can, especially when you overdo it, it's like, all right, God, we get it. Shut up now. Um,
Like that guy on SpongeBob, my leg, my leg, like that random NPC on SpongeBob.
every single episode, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe that's his new bit.
oh, that's throwing me off because I just think about SpongeBob now. No, you're saying about Dante Martin reminded me of that ladder bump that he took with Takeshita, where like Takeshita like dropped him on the side of the ladder, so the ladder was
Oh
that
yeah,
sort of on its side in the ring, so you had the short edge sort of upwards. But that was dumb to me because it was so obvious that Takeshita took all of the impact, and like
yeah,
I think he like hit his like he landed on his neck basically trying to drop Dante Martin on this ladder, and Dante took none of it. I was just like, how silly.
yeah. Also, speaking of silly, Briscoe set the ladder up on the apron, which was quite intriguing and quite cool because, like, you know, you don't really see that often. Climbs up to the top of it. Uh, God, I'm trying to remember who was on the table at the bottom.
Um, no, I can't. Was it Takeshita?
Might have been Takeshita. But anyway, he climbs up and then he basically does an Adam Copeland where he jumps, but he doesn't hit the table. He lands on his feet and sort of brings his arms down awkwardly so the table doesn't break.
Mm,
And
yeah.
I don't think he was injured, thank God. But it's like he saw Copeland do that spot and thought it was a good idea to do it. And it just, no one should do that spot. Like it is just cursed in AEW. It was just really, botches happen, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, it happens. It's bound to
botches
happen in
happen,
this type of
mistakes
match.
happen.
Hmm.
But come on, like learn from your peers' mistakes. Like why what it's so weird. Like I've never really seen this before until now in like AEW of people just I've seen people land on their opponent and the ladder not the table not break and I've seen people not make all of it. But I've never seen people twice in a row completely miss it, land on their feet and just awkwardly slap the chest. Like I've never. It's almost like they get scared last minute or something. I don't know.
Stuff like that as well is it just highlights how stupid wrestling is because the
Oh, it was Jack
commentators
Perry on the table.
okay. The commentators will say something like, "Oh my God, the table didn't break." But you know, in some ways that makes the impact worse. And it's like, right. So the 95% of the times where the ladder did break, I mean the table did break, you just but that didn't hurt.
Burying it.
Like I just that gets me. That gets me because then you're basically saying, you know, that's the point of them breaking is that it breaks the fall. Like that. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. But speaking of that, that blue thunder bomb, which we mentioned before, through the two tables.
So
Wow.
satisfying. Like put
Yes,
that
it
in like an
was.
ASMR video. Like
Yeah.
people cutting slime and people scooping the slime and cutting the soap up into little cubes and it's just Takeshita going through a table. Like, oh, so satisfying, man.
Oh, we should. That's a TikTok, and we should make that TikTok.
Wrestling ASMR.
Hmm.
Just people getting like doing spots really satisfyingly. Just loads of Malachi Black's black masses.
Hmm. So satisfying.
That is like one of the most satisfying finishes, like just right there. Uh yeah, Takeshita looked a million bucks throughout this whole match. But as you say, it was Jack Perry that got the win uh by beating Briscoe down with the chair and then using him as a step to win. So he is now the new TNT champion. And we said earlier about Moment Settle. This is Jack Perry's first big singles win. He's won this title. It's a big moment. And they just cut away instantly. And obviously they're on
Yes.
quick time restraint, but maybe, like we said earlier, did we need the Jericho match? You know, um, it's a double-edged sword because it's like on one end you don't want to complain like, oh, there's too much wrestling on a wrestling pay-per-view.
Mm,
Wrestling pay-per-views are expensive, people pay a lot of money, but you want people to get bang for the buck. And if you've got all these people on your payroll, you want to use them. But that was just like a big moment, and it would have just been nice to have just let that settle for him.
yes, I completely agree. It just felt rushed at some points, and this was one of them where you've got a brand new champion. They should be able to
Yeah.
bask in that for a bit longer rather than just the commentators literally. Well, now we're going to see this match next, and here's the video package, and then the video package plays, and that's the match.
Yeah. But it'd be interesting to see what happens going forward and who Perry's going to feud with for the TNT title. Uh, could we maybe be teetering towards a Christian feud because he used to be under his tutelage. That is Christian's belt.
Mm,
Could we see something of that kind? Or could we see that sort of brewing away? I know that Christians kind of sowed the seeds for some kind of Jay White feud, which would also be quite exciting. But they've definitely got a lot of history, and then with the belt as well, I'm like, or could we see a new face face champion? Are we going to see like an AEW? Well, they already tried to cobble together an AEW faction, but we're going to see another AEW faction that are going to try and win back all the gold and
yeah.
become the evil that is the EVPs. So it'll be really interesting to see what program he's going to go into next.
I think the stock of Jack Perry at the moment is that like anything that he does is going to be really interesting. Like obviously not if it's like a half-assed shit thing, but you know what I mean. Like he's got the potential to do some
Jericho.
really interesting. Oh my God, let's not manifest that. But yeah, it's like that's why I was glad that he won this because he's got the clout, he's got the controversy behind him. Like he's got the potential to have a really interesting story after this. So
He had to win it to sort of cement himself with the EVPs. And
yeah.
I know he came out of the lift and stuff, but it feels like at the minute Okada and the Bucks are very much like a trio and they're always together. Like they're literally always together. Like
Mm,
Okada's like their little lapdog, but it would be nice to see Jack Perry more in those segments as well. And especially now he's got the gold, like they're more as like a unified uh unit and just more screen time
for
for
sure.
Perry. So
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see where that goes. Bringing up next is the Stephanie versus Monet. This is the title of the title, the New Japan Strong title, which is the title that was made for Monet, and the TBS title. We got the video package again, which I've seen about 5 million
Yeah.
times. Uh, I enjoyed the sort of sports presentation as well
Mm, yeah.
to start with, because that's kind of what it was. I feel like what they were trying to go for was like a big match feel. Um, I think if I was doing this and if I had like more access to Stephanie, what I would have enjoyed more is maybe like a contract signing, maybe like a weigh-in, maybe a sit-down interviews. That would have really because I feel like that's what they were trying to go for by the end product, but there was like no build.
Yeah.
So it was like they had to build during the match,
Mm,
which meant that, Stephanie got over more than Monet because she was the better wrestler that night and as such got over more with the crowd and had more of like an organic relationship with the crowd. But then it was kind of like Monet had to think on her feet and sort of just react to it. And she did. I feel like she did play into being the heel sort of role and played off it the best she could to her credit. But it was just a bit, had they have had more time with the crowd and to have seen the crowd reactions, then they would have known maybe more like where the crowd would have been at with it all, rather than just doing it on the fly, which you don't want
yeah.
to do for a big title match.
Yeah, but then again, I think that being able to respond to the crowd is something that good wrestlers are good at, and that's a skill within
Oh yeah,
itself,
for
just to be
sure.
able to react and adapt on the fly.
I just don't like things being on the fly when they're high stakes, like a
Mm,
big women's title match.
yeah,
That's what I don't like.
yeah. I even thought at the beginning of this match, like before the crowd sort of turned on Mercedes, like this ride and the high of, oh my God, she's in AEW, can you believe it? Is not gonna last much longer. And they
Oh, it's
need to,
done. It's
yeah,
done.
exactly.
The charity is done.
hmm
The
Need to do
goodwill
something different. And
is
then
done.
it it's not just this crowd for whatever reason, whatever happened. Like it's like you say, it's done everywhere basically. So they need to
Yeah,
switch
some
it
people have been
up.
speculating about that online. They're like, oh, is it just this crowd? Is it just because like Stephanie was the better wrestler that night? And I do think that's like a part of it, yeah. But I think in general the character is tired.
Yeah,
And yeah, just going into like we were talking about earlier, the crowd reactions. Um on one part you had the fact that they were cheering more for Stephanie. Stephanie had chance, Monet didn't, which isn't what you want for your champion who you're trying to pull off being face. And this was in a home state, but not in a hometown. So I
yeah.
think for whatever reason they like when she came out, the commentary were like, "Oh, she's like the hometown hero or whatever," but that was not
That
the case
really was
because
not
like Long Island has got some beef with
Boston.
Boston sports teams and all that. So I think it was a Red Sox or whatever was like the Red Sox sucks or something was the chant or whatever. Uh,
Was it Celtic
which
stuck or something? I don't know.
Celtics suck.
I couldn't really hear it properly, but I was like, I know they are not chanting Mercedes sucks. That's for that's for fucking sure.
But then it's also like it's hard because the wrestling itself was good, but it just goes
Yeah.
to show like I'm not saying it absolves the crowd for disrespecting them, but at the same time, if the crowd don't have out to get behind, then they are just going to entertain themselves.
Yeah, there wasn't the. It
Especially when
wasn't
they're
like.
this tired. If it was the first match on the card, I think there would have been a lot more charity, a
Yeah,
lot less, a lot more forgiveness. But I think that paired with the fatigue of it being such a long match, they've just come out of this ladder match. The crowd sucked in general as well. And then like the Mercedes character, like that it's tired, and then also the fact that the build's been bad for this match, and then Stephanie comes and just totally shows her up. It was a recipe for disaster, quite
yeah,
frankly.
yeah, yeah, 100%. But
But the in-ring work was good.
it was, yeah. I thought the same. It was quite technical, wasn't it? And the way
Yeah,
they were
Stephanie was
reversing
great.
each other and getting the near falls and stuff. I enjoyed it
They
from
both
that
look like
perspective.
top stars, the top female stars of their respective companies. You could tell that they had a level of prestige and a level of skill,
hmm
and that you were watching a big match. But it's like watching. It's like if you watched a Marvel movie and you just skip to the end fight at the end.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, it's fun to see, I guess, but if you haven't had any other context, like it's just I don't know, it's just like what's the it's like we always say like storylines and things like that, it's the reason to care. And it's like, yeah, if you're watching a Marvel movie and it's like freaking I don't know, I don't even like Marvel that much, but this is just my analogy. Fucking Thanos annihilating everyone, and you're watching bloody Spider-Man die or whatever. Like, yeah, you can get into it from the standpoint of these comic book characters, like you can pick up on. You've got to a basic media literacy understanding enough to understand what's going on, but at the same time, like, who the fuck wants to go to the cinema and watch the last 20 minutes of a film?
yeah, yeah, right, exactly. Because you
And
haven't got
also,
the
all you've been
investment
shown
and
before is the trailer. Like that, I think that's a perfect analogy. Is those video packages are just the trailers.
hmm
We've had 3 months of trailers, then we just watch the ending, and it's like
and it's not
there's such a disconnect there.
it was the
And
same
also, Thanos
trailer.
thinks he's a good guy, which I guess is like in Marvel. But oh, now I'm tying myself in loops. But you know what I mean?
But it's like the
It's just
director
bizarre.
is trying to make you think Thanos is the good guy. And it's
Yeah,
like there's the disconnect and you're like, wait, no, he's not, we don't like him. Yeah. But the
yeah.
trailers that was the same as well, like, that video package, if I remember rightly, they didn't really do anything different with it, so you didn't
No,
get
well,
these
they didn't have
different
much to add
angles.
to it. They had nothing to add to it because,
Very true.
and it's like I don't know whether they're trying to do the Brock Lesnar approach, but a booking style of she's a big match, and with the Brock back in the day with Brock, it kind of worked because you protected him, and I don't know, like he could give you that big match feel. Obviously, fuck Brock Lesnar, but I'm just using him as an analogy because it's all I can think of right
Yeah,
now for like someone who was protected and had the shot. Like you barely
yeah,
saw
for
him on
sure.
weekly TV, but then they'd just swoop in and would hold the title for such a long time as well. But that booking style just isn't working. So,
Well,
but
it's
towards
not.
the end of the match,
I was just gonna say it's not AEW style, is it? That's not
no, it's
what.
not AEW style.
That's why it's not really working.
Towards the end of the match, we had something that kind of I think was the main talking point, which is I'm really selfishly happy for it, but it is a shame that obviously this is the main talking point and not the actual match itself, and not the fact that Monet won because that's just like, well, of course she bloody did.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
It
we all
wasn't
know.
like it wasn't like Shingo versus Danielson. I know that's not for a title, it's for a fucking tournament, but it wasn't like at no point did you ever think it was plausible that Stephanie was going to win.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like I said earlier, like that belt was designed for Monet,
Yeah,
and like that belt being the New Japan women's strong belt. So I don't know, but anyway, Britt Baker returned, which oh my God, it was like absolutely surreal. It was during Monet's celebration, and she just came out, looked like an absolute boss, looked in amazing shape, and it was just
yeah.
oh my, it was just so like it was like I'm a huge fan of it. It was just so good to like see her, just see her, and like yeah, it wasn't a lot. Like she could have come down, she could have confronted her, she could have beat her down or something. But I think because we're all just so starved of Britt Baker, it was just enough
Mhm.
just to see her. Uh,
Yeah,
it was fucking great to see her.
I thought of you when this happened because I know how much you've missed it, and that's not to say that I haven't, but we've talked about it quite a lot, haven't we? Where we've said, when's Britt Baker fucking coming back to rescue this women's division? So yeah, it was great to see her. She got a really quite a good pop as well.
And Britt's great at talking segments. She's fucking amazing promo. So, you know, Monet's a bit wooden, Monet's not great, but I think if they're in a program together,
They'll
I think
bring the
if
best
anyone
out
can
of
bring
each
out
other.
the best, yeah, they'll bring the best out of each other. And wrestling wise, they will. But if they can get a great build together and the great match, which the great match is guaranteed, but
Mm,
as we saw tonight, the great match just isn't enough. If we
true.
get the great build along with that, I think we're on to a winner. And I think, yeah, it will really will be the saving grace. But also I think having said that, they and Monet need to be intelligent enough to go with what the crowd wants. And I think the
Mm.
crowd already wants her to go heel, but if in this program, like it becomes really evident that she needs to turn heel and like AEW and her for whatever reason are being hesitant, that'll be a massive mistake. So I'm hoping that they really move with roll with the punches essentially.
Well, if it wasn't obvious after tonight, then I mean, what I don't know how else you can take the crowd reaction tonight, and I know that the crowd was a bit weird, but how else can you react to that other than saying, right, let's just pull the trigger, go full heel sort of thing. It just seems like the natural thing to do. The CEO
Yeah.
thing is just too forced. Like that can I just by the way, that gets stuck in my head every time I hear it for days on
CEO,
end.
CE, and the do. Yeah, I mean, and naturally, like ever since, even when it was unveiled, it was never like it was always like you said, I've said, it's always been very pretentious, very,
Mm.
I don't know, it's just always been heelish, hasn't it? Like it's never
Yeah,
ever
it's
like even when
arrogant.
she returned, it's arrogant. Yeah, that's the perfect word. Um, it's always had that arrogant tone to it. It's
Yeah.
always been the natural move, and yeah,
I think
she's a much better heel as well.
yeah. I think they just thought that that momentum of holy shit, oh my God, I can't believe she's here would last longer than it did, which wasn't really that long to be honest.
Uh, no, and I think one that's down to her naturally being a better heel, but also like the booking decisions
Yeah.
and Tony's really been, credit to him. He's really been hitting it off with some of the women's division lately. So it seems he has been learning a little bit from some of his mistakes. So hopefully going forward, and what an investment money was. Like, a stock's already fallen quite considerably. You don't want it to fall anymore.
Yeah.
Like, and maybe that's what we're getting for All In, Obviously, I think evidently that's where we're going is Britt Baker uh money for the TBS title.
Yes.
With possibly a hater return
Oh,
interference during to aid Britt Baker, maybe.
we're eating well, if that's the case.
We are we are eating well. So in between this, just before we got to the next match, we also got a pretty huge announcement that in January 2025, Dynasty will be held in Japan. It'll be called Wrestle Dynasty, and it'll feature all of the promotions that were featured tonight. So not just New Japan and AEW, but also as I guess a subsidiary of AEW, ROH, and CMLL and Stardom again. So that's pretty fucking cool. It's been a long time coming. Forbidden Door has been exclusive. Well, I know it isn't Forbidden Door, but basically it's like it's the Japan version. It's been being held exclusively in uh on American soil. So I think it's about fucking time.
Yeah.
Also, a big question that I had that I wanted to ask at the end, but I think now would be a good time to ask is I was talking about last week. Uh, I think Forbidden Door is done, and I think maybe we just have it as like a special Dynamite. But now I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, let's just retire it and literally just do Dynasty
Mm.
next year. And I think it being in Japan will keep it fresh enough.
Yeah, because it's a new
Yeah.
crowd and everything, isn't it?
Yeah. Like just literally just retire Forbidden Door. Don't do it next year. And maybe if next year goes well, maybe alternate it, which I think they always should have done, even just as Forbidden Door in the end of June. They should have always done it where like 1 year it's held in
Mm.
America, 1 year it's held in Japan. So yeah,
I
or
agree.
even held it in Mexico the year after or something
Yeah.
like that, just to keep it fresh. Because, but I mean, it's like I said, oh, they've tied out and all the stars are gone now, but. Who knows, like by next year and even the year after, I'm sure there'll be a lot of new talent that have sprung up around the indies. I'm sure there'll be
Yeah.
WWE talent that's gone, Impact talent that's gone and is circulating. Uh, yeah, is circulating in New Japan. So who's not to say that next year there won't be like that like Zack Sabre Jr. Figure, especially since like the old guard in Japan, Tanahashi, Naito, like they're sort of the win. Well, I mean, Tana already has, but like ending their career and new talent stepping up. So
Yeah.
maybe I'm being too cynical by saying end it altogether, but yeah, I think as much as I enjoyed tonight, I think it's ran its course.
I agree. I think that's a great idea that you could alternate it between the different countries and stuff because then you got it in front of a new crowd who probably, they're going to eat it up. If AEW wants to expand globally, which is obviously that's the intention that they're putting out there, they've gone to the UK and now Japan, um, you know, test out different venues in these different countries and then in front of these different audiences, different wrestlers are going to be more over than they would be in the US. So then that opens the door for more different matches. Because maybe something that, maybe wouldn't land in the US, they'd love it in Japan sort of thing. So yeah, it opens loads of avenues. And if you've got this in January next year, you're not going to miss Forbidden Door, really, because you've got that style of show anyway. So
Yeah,
I'm down with your idea. I think you should pitch that to Tony, and I think if he's got sense, he'll say yes.
yeah. Um, but yeah, it's pretty huge, and it's great to hear the CMLL and that the Stardom uh partnership is continuing. And I can't remember where, but I know on like some kind of press conference recently, Tony Khan said that he's hoping to have a greater relationship with Stardom because obviously the management there shifted over. I think he made like a little snacky comment about that how great the new management is to work with because that's kind of what really stopped him
Mm,
from having that great working relationship despite Kenny's Kenny having a network with the Joshis, like it still wasn't enough. And obviously that is where the greatest Joshis are wrestling is in Stardom. Uh, I'd love to see. I've said it a bit, like so many times a bit. I'd love to see Maki Ito versus Tony Storm. That'd be, I think, fantastic
Dream.
dream match. But yeah, it's weird because like before I was like, oh, like just fucking kill it. Like it's had its day. It's a dying dog. But now I'm like, like you say, a new crowd, it totally reinvigorates it because different things are over. And we was saying that Japanese stars can be a bit hesitant to pull the trigger fully on American soil, mainly because they know they're going to do a rematch in Japan anyway. So
Mm.
it'll be nice to sort of see people if they're in. I believe it's going to be held in the Tokyo Dome, right?
I think they said they likened it to Wrestle Kingdom, I think, because of that.
I'm pretty sure it's gonna be held like in the Tokyo Dome. So like to see it there in like one of the biggest venues in Japan, would be great to see people go all out and yeah, just be a little bit less predictable because obviously it's more in AEW, it's more beneficial for the AEW guys to win. Although you don't want every AEW guy to win every
Mm.
time, but in Japan, like it'll be more beneficial. Yeah, it'll be. It's just like a different dynamic, and it's like the AEW guys as well as like the other people who are going to fight there, ROH, CML. Like they've got more. Let's plus CML, it's the same. They'll have the same amount to prove, but they've got like more to prove. So
Yeah.
yeah, and Dynasty was a great pay-per-view. So I'm glad to see it evolve.
Yeah. Get even better, no doubt.
Yeah, so coming up after that, we had this match was it was a bit of a dud. It was a big disappointment. We had JR coming out. He called the last two matches,
Bless him.
which was great. He gave no fucks.
Yeah.
JR was hilarious because the trio of Excalibur, Taz, and Nigel are already quite chill anyway, but then also they're a little bit fatigued. But then bloody JR's just woken up from his nap and he's like ready to go. Like he's drunk like 12 coffees and he's just fucking.
Yeah.
They had to like keep up with him, you know? Like normally it's the
Yeah.
other way around, like trying to catch him up with everything, but he was ready to go.
He was on it.
Yeah, so this was, anyway, as I didn't introduce it, the Naito versus Mox match for the IWGP title. Mox being the title holder, having won it from Naito a couple of months prior. Mox came out with his New Japan theme. And my first
Feel
note that
like,
I'd written down is the crowd was tired.
yes, I feel like having Wild Thing would have maybe picked them up a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that they were waiting for that. I even saw someone with a sign like right where he came out. It said like Moxley Wild Thing on it. So that was a bit of a
Yeah, I really liked the Sicko 1 and Sicko 2
yes.
posters as well. That they were great.
Zack Sabre
That
Jr.
was a
was
great
like,
sign.
"I'm Sickle 3." I was like,
Yeah.
"And I'm Sickle 4."
Uh, yeah, but I did enjoy like how he came out to his New Japan theme. Just I guess from like a stylistic standpoint, like he's the
Mm.
IWGP champion, but at the same time, like you say, the crowd could really have done with a little pickup, a little karaoke moment.
Yeah.
Uh, I think my favorite moment during this match was when the sound engineer got trapped under Moxley and Naito was just beating him with like what looked to be like a pool tube or like some kind of
Yeah.
insulation at the side of the ring or for the wires or whatever. This
Mm.
random guy is just like trapped underneath. It was so funny.
Nowhere to go. Pretty shit
This is
place to
also the
be.
point that Naito looked to be like the most into it, like the whole match. Suddenly just had like a burst of energy. Uh Yeah, this match was unfortunately it was Moxley's kind of always had sort of that brawler, slower style anyway in general. And then that paired with like Naito, who one isn't like giving his best because it's an American match, but then two, like he would just looked blown up and tired. And my kind of reading of the match was Mox was trying to do things, but Naito was just like kind of off pace or like out of it. Like I do think the blame kind of lies with him a bit. Uh, I think he just was like out of pace, a bit
Mm.
blown up maybe. There was a certain point that was really hard to watch where he was trying to like lift Mox up and his legs were literally buckling, like his knees. Uh, yeah, that long-term injury. It just wasn't a good watch. It just wasn't what it should have been on paper.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It didn't deliver, did it? It it was just hard to get into. It wasn't like engaging in any sense really. Yeah, and that late on in the card, it was a struggle because like you say, everyone was very tired by that point.
Yeah, it was meant to be like the two main events,
Yeah.
like the two heavyweight titles. But even though it should have been there for the sake of authenticity and legitimacy, it would have benefited from being earlier on in the card,
Yeah,
you know. But also,
definitely.
it's like hindsight's 2020. It's like Zack Sabre
Mhm.
Jr. Orange Cassidy would have benefited from being like maybe the first match. You know, it's like how there's only so much you can predict, and logically, yes, I would have done the same thing, and I would have put that match exactly where it was.
Hmm.
And you'd have thought that no matter how fatigued the crowd was, it's Mox versus fucking Naito, so the crowd would have gone mental anyway. But one, the crowd was weird, and two, there wasn't much to go mental for
Yeah,
because it just felt like really clunky and like it just, like I say, it was hard to get into, and it just never really got into gear or got into where it needed to be. Even down to the ending, Mox delivered the Death Rider, and Red Shoes gave a really slow 1, 2, 3, which it was just like I feel like it wasn't even done on purpose. Like I feel like that wasn't intentional. Like I feel like it just was a bad count. And then uh Naito comes in with the Destino for the 1, 2, 3, and then picks up the IWGP title. So it was just yeah. And when it's that late on and when you're watching it live as well, it was it
that
was a difficult watch.
that makes it even more disappointing, doesn't it? When you're really tired and you just need something to wake you up to give you that
And you're
personal.
looking forward to it as well. Like I think that was like my most anticipated match, along with Orange Cassidy versus Zack Sabre Jr.
Mm,
And I don't think, not that I think that I was let down by Orange Cassidy Zack Sabre Jr. I do think it was the crowd in that instance. But I feel like if the crowd had been into this just because, which I feel like a normal pay-per-view crowd would have been, maybe it would have given it some kind of merit. But then the bad crowd paired with like the not so great wrestling, they really needed the crowd to carry him and sort of like the crowd and the wrestlers kind of feeding off each other.
yeah,
And Orange Cassidy and Zack Sabre Jr. were able to sort of cut the crowd off and just lock in and just bang out a match.
yeah.
Um, but Mox and Naito weren't. Although I don't think it's down to just pure crowd reaction. Like I say, I think it's just. But it's strange because their last title, like when Mox won it, that was a great match.
Mm,
So, and that was in America. Uh, that was at the last. I forgot where. Chicago, maybe the last American pay-per-view that they had anyway when he won it. So yeah, and I mean, just weird all around. Like JR being like, you don't win matches by spitting, which was like a fine observation. And then
yeah,
sometimes I feel like with JR, what makes it awkward is he'll say things that are like just truths, and then because like the others want to get involved, so I think it was Nigel started devil's advocating it, but then he was like, oh, well, maybe like if he does the spitting thing, then this guy thinks this, so that means this and that means that. And then it's just like it doesn't work. And I feel like
convoluted at
it
that
was
point.
clunky. It was convoluted from the four-man booth. JR works best in a two-man, I think.
Yeah, so
Uh,
true.
so like that, the commentary team wasn't really like every element of what delivers a match. The crowd, the energy, the wrestling, the wrestlers, the commentary team, all of it was like down on like its last leg. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was too much on commentary. For 4 people, it's just too much. I feel like Nigel kind of was drowned out a bit. Um, and he arguably he's probably my favorite of them. Just I think he's
I
very
think Nigel and
intelligent.
JR are great together. Like when they've done their duo together with a bit of Tony Schiavone on the side, I think that's when he
Mm.
works well because like he's got that familiarity with Schiavone, so he feels kind of comfortable. And then Nigel's a great heel commentator, which is when JR's always been the best.
Yes.
But then because Nigel was with Taz and Excalibur, and then it was a bit edgy and a bit marky and a bit like throwing out jokes and innuendos, which works well when there's just three of them. But then when there was four, but yeah. So anyway, Naito is now IWGP champion, and yeah, like we're going into the G1 now, G1 season. So
Okay.
it'll be interesting to see what comes of that. I've heard rumblings that Takeshita's going to join the G1,
Right. Okay.
which
Interesting.
would be great, because let him cook, let him do something,
Yeah.
uh, and yeah, let him cook. uh, it's not like he's doing much in AEW at the minute, and maybe another accolade under his belt might just give him like even more legitimacy to reason a push, and him coming back and like being fresh, and while he's away they can sort out the Don Callis mess because that's convoluted at the minute for me.
It is. It's very, very convoluted. It's hard to follow. It's not. Oh no, I've had
No,
enough.
says Lucy. No. uh, so yeah, we'll draw a line under that, and we will move on to our main event. Well, still both supposed to be main events, but we had the Swerve versus Osprey match, and I think you listened to the first half of the video, but I actually changed my prediction. I put Swerve as my predicted um
Right.
winner. So when he won, I felt very vindicated,
Yeah. Yeah. I never really
and I think it
doubted
was the
Swerve.
right decision.
Yes, I agree. I didn't.
You put Osprey.
No, I said Swerve.
No, 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 no. You said your two definites were Osprey winning and Money.
Really?
Oh, 100%.
If I wrote that in a
Maybe
text,
you
I
wrote
did
it,
not
but you
mean
thought
it.
something different.
Yeah, I 100% thought that Swerve was gonna retain the whole time. 100%.
Really?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, well then we're both of the same mind. We can't have any stimulating discussion. We'll just have to agree.
I didn't see him losing it so early on. Um, yeah, and the way they executed it was brilliant, I thought. I love. I mean, I'm not just gonna skip straight to the end of the match, but I loved
No, 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 no.
loved the ending.
Yeah. Uh, we had this again on par with great entrances. I don't know what it was, but people were all about the presentation. Uh, we had a lovely little Osprey close up on his Tron. He was playing homage to Hayabusa. Came out with the mask as well. Some lad called Jim Jones accompanying Swerve. I'm sure that's a big deal to some people. So it was nice that they had those big entrances. Uh, Hayabusa being a luchador who wrestled in Japan. He had a long tenure in Japan, and sort of had the Osprey style even before Osprey. And Osprey was seen as like ahead of his time, so like Hayabusa was seen like way, way ahead of his time. So it was like
Yeah.
a big inspiration. But I think also it was like about being the underdog and about, paying homage to that, which is like a big part of like Osprey's character and him as a person just doing things his way. Instantly they were on each other with an elbow strike exchange. Uh, there was some great moments. We had the Rana off the barricade. That was the standout
Oh
moment for
my
me. Like the way
God.
it wasn't like they got up there and kept their balance. Everything about both of these men, like, is very controlled. Like for such
Mm,
high risk maneuvers that they do, like very rarely do you look at something they do and like have fear.
Yeah,
Like I'm
right.
like, oh yeah, like if it was anyone else up there, I'd be like, oh, like that's a bit risky. But like with them, I'm like, yeah.
Fine.
Like maybe like Ray Phoenix as well. Like it's just certain wrestlers where like you're
Mm.
like,
It's the
um,
balance, and they don't
yeah,
wobble.
the control, for sure. That was really nice. Um, I was loving the speed of the offense as well. They're both just so good, and they can have good matches with anyone, but with each other, it's like, it's just with certain pairings like Danielson Osprey, Kenny Omega Osprey, like just being able to fully like reach your full potential.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it was like they could read each other's minds. Like, I've no doubt that I'm not daft. I know that a lot of stuff like this in wrestling is obviously planned, but the way you react to someone and like knowing, having that awareness, like,
like you've been wrestling them for years.
yeah, exactly.
And I know
That's
they go back years, and I know they have like even uh on the indies that like even back then I remember Swerve talking about how impressed he was with Osprey even back then and thought it was going to be a big deal, but still it's not like they've been wrestling like every week.
yeah, yeah,
It's not
exactly.
like a Kenny Sammy Zayn's where it's like or like a tag team when you see like a tag team, all those people who've been wrestling each other for a long time. This is just some people who, yeah, they've got a bit of history, but they just get in the ring and they just make magic like it's just a house show. Like it's just nothing to them.
Yes, exactly. It's that chemistry, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, we also got a cutaway to Daniel Garcia watching on,
Looking
so they're
insanely
keeping.
glamorous.
He's had like a proper little glow up recently, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I feel like he must have had a stylist or something.
A bit
It
like
looks like he's been in like Ricky Stark's wardrobe.
when Seth Rollins suddenly started dressing like a king and everyone was like, wow, that's amazing. Then he just revealed he just got a stylist. Like, he didn't do any of this himself.
Yeah, so no, it's great. Like looks are everything in wrestling elevates. He looked legitimate being up there. I think I read like one comment where it looked like he was the actual champion and they were like wrestling to
Yeah.
qualify for a match with him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great because next week he's going to wrestle Osprey and he's obviously got a stake and he wants Osprey to win because then he'll get an opportunity at the world title next week. So yeah, I think as well later on we had a cutaway to Max watching as well
Yeah.
at the back,
Yeah.
which was nice because like I say, if we're following along with the idea of what you're saying of he's working his way up to the top, well, there's that. And he's also like just won he's just got this challenge back, like it's to the back of him now. So now he's looking forward, but also like people have been taking his spot and underestimating him. So now he's got Hedge Sarah out the way. He's like fully locked in.
Hmm.
And particularly on, well, I don't know. I was going to say, I feel like Osprey is the one he's locked on more, even though he's not got the world title. Because it
Yes,
seems like
I agree.
yeah, it's more like, yeah, I don't know, like last week when Osprey came out and outshone him, and as well, which is like weird because like I guess like you'd think like the world champion would be who you'd go for, but I'm not complaining because I don't think it like discredits like Swerve that much. Um, but yeah, I think like that's where they're going.
Yeah, I hope so.
Swerve maybe for Hangman, maybe Hangman.
Yes.
I don't. Have they still got that? Yeah, they've still got that opponent against Jeff Jarrett, aren't they? That isn't revealed yet.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
What if that's Hangman?
Yeah.
What if then we get Hangman Jay White? What if Hangman then wins the whole Owen Hart tournament and we get Hangman Swerve at Wembley?
Oh, inject it to my veins is what I
It's gonna
say
be
to
just the
that.
most. It's gonna be like fucking someone so like random.
Who's recent? I feel like has someone recently been released from WWE? Donovan
Yeah, but they have
Dijak
the
or whatever.
claws though, don't they? They
Oh,
have the
true,
90-day.
true, yeah.
And also Ricochet, I believe, has asked for his
Oh,
release. But
yeah,
again, there's the 90-day no freaking
yeah. No
contest clause,
compete.
whatever the hell it's called.
Mm,
No non-competition clause. So, uh, Yeah, so they're setting other things up at the same time. That was nice. I think my favorite spot was the swerve stomp onto the commentary desk. It didn't break, but it looked pretty gnarly, even
Right.
so.
I agree with you, but I think it was a bit silly because Osprey clearly jumped into it. Do you know what I
I
mean? I
mean,
don't
those
know.
kind of things always have a bit of a hokey setup, don't they?
Yeah, they do. To me, that one was extremely obvious. I was like, come on, Will, you could have moved. You could have moved out of the way instead of moving into it. I don't know.
Um, yeah, there was some great near falls. But it was just a lot of falsies. So we had
Yeah,
the avalanche Oscar into the regular Oscar,
yeah,
uh, which really did feel like it was the end of the match. I
hmm
think as well because you really felt like, even though my bet was with Swerve, like you felt like it was going to be Osprey picking up the win because he's got the most momentum at the minute.
yeah,
But then the thing that made me think like it's not Osprey's not going to win is one, like Swerve hasn't had a long enough reign and it just feels a bit short, like you're
yeah,
saying. But also, like, why would you make Osprey the champion? Like, before Wembley. Like, surely
yeah,
either you give
exactly.
him the win at Wembley this year or you do a Cody and you give him the win at Wembley next year, either by that having him lose or having him not be in the title match.
Yeah,
Uh, because why would you do that? Because then you're depriving that hometown audience of being able to cheer and root for their boy. And that
yeah,
just, to
exactly.
me, it's just, why would you do that?
Yeah,
A month before as well. It doesn't make any sense.
yeah. The American fans don't deserve it like we deserve it.
No, no, they don't. Especially not this crowd. Um, yeah, the hidden blade to the swerve stomp, and then we had that avoided. Then we had the hidden blade to the ref. So that took out the ref. So then it kind of got like a bit shenanigan-y. Uh, again, no hate. I thought it worked pretty well. I don't think it was overbooked.
Same,
I think
completely agree.
it worked well. So obviously that took the ref out. Uh, he did the Rana to swerve, but the ref was out, so it didn't matter. And that, it's like he could have beat him. He had him. He has that sort of leverage for in future if they
Yep.
do decide to do the. Well, I suppose they can't do it because in it, I'm pretty sure that is the Owen Hart tournament. Is it's not just for the world title. I'm pretty sure the opportunity is at All In, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, I think
But
so.
like after that or
Mm.
whenever, it gives him a reason to still be in the top and be in the running for the world title. Um, then we get Callis coming down and he has a screwdriver. Swerve's still out. Osprey is like at this point, he's a hothead anyway in real life and in the ring. So his frustrations are at an all-time high right now. And Callis preys on this. He's got the screwdriver. He goes to give it to him. Uh, Nana sees this and begins to try to intervene. Uh, at that point, Nana then becomes the target, and Osprey's got the screwdriver and he's got him like pinned up against the corner with the outside, and he's about to use the screwdriver, but in the end, chooses not to. Decides that that is not how he wants to win.
I
There's
feel
also
like
teasings of the Tiger Driver as well
that's
during this
that's
match that kind of lent
that's
into it.
exactly what I was just about to say. That it's foreshadowing that he lacks that killer sort of instinct, which is what Swerve kept on saying about him before this match. That's why he was going to beat him. So that was kind of case in point of that. Because if that was Swerve on the other foot against Don Callis, for example, I don't. He would
Oh,
he would have
Mans would
stabbed
have done
him
it. Mans is a
instantly.
sick fuck.
Yeah, he would have took his eye out.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, but yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying the long-term storytelling, and there's a lot of corniness to Osprey's character at the minute. But I think like this corniness, and I do think it is a little bit corny of like good guy needs to make like a sacrifice, but he just can't. Like I think it's great, and
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
yeah, for sure. Um, and when he does use the Tiger Driver, when he does like fully fucking flip out, that's going to be a huge moment. I still don't think we're there. Like even after this match, I don't think like he's going to come in next Wednesday and be like, I think he's going to be hot-headed and be like, I had you, mate, I had you, bruv. But I don't think he's going to be like out for blood like
Mm.
Hangman is. And
Yeah,
it's like
no.
Swerve. I know it is a bit of callous in his ear, but Swerve, even though he's fierce and even though he's a bit sanitized, when you think about it, he has this habit of like dementing people and creating like these monsters in people because look
Yeah.
at what he's done to Hangman. But then he's made Hangman worse than him.
Yeah.
But now you just look at him like he's crazy.
He
But
brings
it's
out
like,
the
no, like
worst in people.
he does. Well, it brings out the best in the ring, but the worst
Yeah,
in their
exactly.
characters, for sure. Uh, yeah, so as soon as he throws it away, he goes into the ring. He's like, I'm gonna lock in, but oh, straight into a house call. It was bam to the side of his head. Uh, at one point, I think during the match, like I don't know if it was the other house call, but like he had like bruising down the side of his
Yeah.
face, didn't he? Like he looked fucked.
It, the impact, like the connection on that, fuck me.
Oof. It's great. And then we were into the swerve stomp. And Swerve as well, like, we talk about letting moments breathe. He does that so well because he did the house call and then he got up slowly and you knew he was going to win because he was like getting up and he was taking it in. And I don't know whether that's just for himself, which if it is, like, that's lovely, that he takes in those big moments. Because I know he said that, like, when he makes his entrance before, he says he looks out and he sees, like, individuals' faces and he really, like, absorbs it for himself, which I think it's lovely that he does that, as he should at that stage in his career. A lot of people would just sort of let that fly by, but it's great that he does that. But he has a great technique of slowing moments down and making them feel even bigger because he could have just ran up there, done that swerve song, bam, one, two, three, but he really, oh, like a dick, like he really like milked it out, and then yes, swerve stomp, and it's like. I guess if you wanted Osprey to win, you'd be like, no, like it's just villainous. It's just fucking great. And yeah, as I say,
Yeah,
uh,
I agree. And the little detail I noticed in this, which is similar to what you said, is like when the referee was out and he was going for the swerve stomp, he didn't just do it straight away. He waited for a referee to come out and he was like, "Come here now," like making sure there
yeah,
was a
yeah, yeah,
referee there before he did it. So that's like that like champion's instinct, isn't it? That's what a champion does. Is
for
they
sure.
strike at the right time. He's not stupid. He's not going to do it when the referee's not there and can't count.
Yeah, because after that, like we had the swerve stomp, then a house call. Osprey then got up, tried to do a hidden blade, but he was exhausted, which was a really nice touch.
And he had it
And
hurt.
then we had
His hand was hurt or something, wasn't it, as well?
yeah,
So he couldn't really properly hit it.
yeah, it was a weak hidden blade, and then Swerve set him up for the big pressure, and then because like there was the false finishes, but also like it took a lot to put Osprey away, and he went down fighting, but he won valiantly and he got what he wanted because he fought till like his last breath until he couldn't
Yeah.
anymore. And so he won with honor, but he
Yes,
didn't win the gold.
100%. I think it was like it was sort of saying that he's good enough to be in the match, but he's just not ready yet to take it all, sort of thing. He needs to find his own identity, break away from Don Callis. He needs to find that killer
Or is he going to
instinct.
think that he needs to lean into Don Callis?
Well, yeah, you could go either way with that, really, couldn't
I
you?
mean, I'm hoping it's the other way, but
Mm. But
it could go that way, couldn't it?
it was clear that, he went for the Tiger Driver, but he couldn't hit it and Swerve reversed it. So it's like he's just lacking that clinical element to put away the champion. It's kind of like he could go back and have the most like honorable, legitimate claim to having a rematch for the title because he came so close, like you said before. Um, I really really like the way they told the story with this.
For sure. And then the pay-per-view ended with Swerve looking strong.
Mm.
Um,
But he showed
again,
respect to Osprey, didn't he?
oh yeah, oh that was so lovely when he went down and he had a few words with him and Osprey was crying, it looked to be. Um, I'm sure like he's a very emotional person
Mm.
outside of the ring, it seems. He can get like really caught up with it and he wears his heart on his sleeve. So I think like from his perspective, like he was just feeling like, whoa, like I've had this great match and it was for the world title and
Oh,
like a lot of
God.
emotions there. And it was lovely that moment. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I
again,
think
it just adds
Com's
that
put over,
emotion.
as he said, it's nothing personal, it's just business.
Yes. Yeah.
But
That's what
Osprey
Swerve
takes
just
it
does.
personally.
Yeah, but that's sort of why
Osprey
Swerve
can't
has
just
that
have it be
edge.
business.
Mm.
Osprey can't detach himself.
That's one of his weaknesses, like in kayfabe. You know, he can't let go, sort of thing. Can't let go of his emotions.
Yeah, and like I say, it ended with him just finishing strong the past few pay-per-views, and we're continuing in the era of Swerve. And I wonder whether like the next thing you do is you have the Swerve Hangman thing or Swerve Jay White at All In, but then at the same time you have the MJF Osprey thing, and then whoever comes out on top is whoever you face next. Be that if it's a Jay White and MJF, then you do MJF Jay White next, or be that Osprey and Hangman, you do Osprey Hangman next. The combinations are endless,
Yeah,
so it's
100%.
it's it's great. But and also like Osprey, like saying needs to really wrap shit up with the Callis family,
Yeah, yeah,
as does Orange Cassidy. We definitely need some kind of like wrap on that as well. So that's like another loose thread that needs to be tied up. And
hmm
Daniel Garcia, there's a lot of plates moving,
yeah, yeah. Where does he come into all this?
but there's no stories, no stories. Well, there's
Well,
no stories some places, mainly the women's division. But there's some they're cooking some places.
yeah, and there's enough time from now to All In to really build that card into something that people are going to care about. I think,
Yeah,
yeah, you got to capitalize on the power of someone like Osprey, um, and Mariah May. Like, just thinking, like, hometown sort of talent that the UK crowd are going to want to see. Got to take advantage of them stories that are building.
and All In's just. I mean, I can't like you say. I can't believe it's a month away. I'm not emotionally prepared.
No, me
I'm
neither.
not. I'm not like I'm not ready for it. But I mean, we're on the build for it now, so things are really going to start taking shape. And like we say, we don't even know who Jack Perry's going to go against.
Oh
I
my
mean,
God.
obviously, how could they? We've done anything before because we only just found out he's champion tonight. Um, Danielson. I mean, fuck it. Who's to say Danielson doesn't win the Owen Hart tournament?
I know, I know. Oh my
Who's to
God.
say we don't get Danielson Swerve?
Yeah. I
Oh,
mean,
I mean,
possibilities are
one thing's
endless.
for sure. The next 4 weeks of programming are going to be one to watch for sure, especially for us
Yes.
because it's going to have massive ramifications. And Beach Break next week looks absolutely stacked. I can't believe they're doing that like straight after as well.
Yeah, yeah, I know. It's such a weird name as well, by the way. Like, what? Like, okay,
We've
beach
got to get
break,
in that
cool.
Shark Week advertisement,
That
haven't we?
sponsorship, get your dollar in.
Exactly. Get that Texas Chainsaw, bloody Leatherface, Jeff Jarrett match in. So yeah, I mean, the show. What are you thinking? Like, what is your rating? Like, how are you feeling? I think we both thought it was a good show.
Yeah, I think it was. It was, we all expected like the good wrestling from pretty much nearly every single match. There was moments where it was slower, maybe didn't live up to some of the expectations of some of the matches. The crowd let it down a bit. Overall, I want to say because of all the things I just said, an 8. Um,
I'm with you there.
yeah, like maybe I'm a little bit biased because I'm so excited for All In and all that anticipation, and like you just mentioned, all the possible
And there
ways
was
we could go
no
forward.
Claudio. There was
Oh
no
my
Claudio
God,
for her.
Yeah, shit, break. You
There's
know
no Jay
what?
White for me as well, you know.
With such
We were
a strong,
deprived a bit.
it says quite a lot with such a strong card that I didn't even really think about that.
No, I didn't either till the other day and I was thinking about Jay White and I was like, huh, he didn't have a match. That's a bit.
It's sad.
But it was still like, God, they didn't. I mean, they could have taken out Jericho, but like, they didn't, it was stacked as it was.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you don't just want to shove them in for the sake of it. Um, so yeah, some really
All
good.
Christian Cage.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that when we were talking about him before. Um,
Not everyone has to be on every show and it keeps people
exactly.
fresh. So,
And they
um,
weren't like glaringly missing, I don't think.
yeah, I mean, I think that's just because they had to make way for all the other Japanese wrestlers, and they've
Yeah,
already got a massive roster, and then add on to that we're collaborating with Japanese wrestlers and also Mexican wrestlers as well. It's like,
yeah,
you know, um, but yeah, I'd agree with an eight. Like, I think the crowd docks a point, and then I think the Naito Mox match docks quite a point because it wouldn't matter so much, but because it was like a main event and it was for the title, you've got to be real. And then,
yeah,
yeah, like just the crowd and the length was quite difficult, I think, especially since like the wrestling was great, but it was slower paced a lot of times. So slower paced with minimal stories, which is like AEW, I get, but I don't know, like it just, I think for me, it was long. It's like 15 matches.
it was a lot.
But at the
It
same
was
time,
a
it
lot.
was a lot of wrestling. It was a lot of wrestling, which is a great thing. Um, but yeah, I think it's been the weakest of the Forbidden Doors so far. I think that's definitely held true, but it's been better than what I thought it was going to be
Yeah,
in
you we were
certain aspects.
you were pretty skeptical about it, so I think. Well,
That's one way to
we
put it.
both were, but and then like in particular,
Skeptical.
like your episode last week, it was just you. But it it delivered on the fronts that you know there was a lot of good wrestling on it.
Yeah, there was a lot to celebrate and a lot of
Yeah,
wins, and as we always say, a lot to look forward to. Like a pay-per-view should be like a culmination of things, but it should always leave you excited for more things. And I think
yeah,
the booking was like the booking leading up to it was a bit yeah, but I think the booking on the night was good. The right people won.
yeah.
No matches am I looking at and thinking, why the hell has this person won? I think
Agreed.
the right person won every single match.
Yeah, 100% agree.
So yeah, quite a long one. Obviously, pay-per-view, and I say 15 fucking matches deep. Like we had a lot to say
A lot
about
to
it.
cover.
And God, you're going to be sick of us back Thursday, hopefully for the
Bash at the beach or whatever the fuck.
beach break. Um, we'll see whether there's those bloody women on those seats again throwing beach balls.
Yeah,
Jeff
get
Jarrett
them.
fighting a shark.
Got to tune in. Got to tune in for Jeff Jarrett.
Exactly.
So yeah,
As yeah.
that was a that was a long haul, but yeah, very good.
Especially for you, having watched the show and then coming on here and doing the podcast. So thank you for your dedication.
Oh well, you stayed up last night. You must be fucking tired after that.
Yeah, but I feel like watching it and then podcasting and doing a full day of work, like that's hardcore. Like hats off the
Thanks,
commitment.
appreciate it. Appreciate it. What
This
time
is
did
podcast.
the pay-per-view go on to? Just out of curiosity.
5 a.m. It
God,
usually runs over a little bit past 5 a.m. because obviously it starts at 1 a.m.
loud. Okay.
Uh, it, it went a little like the time went a little bit slow, I think.
Well,
But
it was
also
good.
0 hour felt longer than usual because there was more wrestling in it.
Yeah, there was a
Like
lot of
normally
matches
there's
on
like
that.
RJ and Renee and there was like no RJ and no Renee. Like normally they have talking bits and they have panels. I'm not complaining. Like the wrestling was great and yeah, I'm not complaining, but like it was different to what it usually is like for sure.
Yeah, it was a lot. Well, We got through it.
Yeah, and you know what now? As much as I've enjoyed Forbidden Door, let's get on the road to All In, because hell yeah, baby, we're gonna be there.
Can't wait. So excited.
And
It feels real now.
it is literally happening this month. And
Next
we've
month.
got the UK Cardiff show to look forward to as well.
Yeah,
That'll be fun to watch and review.
yeah, certainly will. We've got a lot of stuff
Let's
to look
hope no
forward
one gets injured
to. Yeah,
before it
keep
cracks
your
off.
fingers
So
crossed.
hopefully you guys enjoyed it. The dream team back together. Be
Yeah,
back in a few days.
leave us a comment and let us know what you thought. What did you think of the pay-per-view? Do you agree or disagree with us? And like the video or rate us on Spotify if you're on Spotify. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. And we'll be back soon.
I must bid you adieu, goodbye, and good night, bad.
I wish you died in the womb!